Equal housing lender, NMLS 166171 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
It's bow time. Something new just dropped at Bojangles. Take the bold taste of a crispy golden chicken supreme that's been seasoned to perfection, then add dill pickles, Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, and a toasted bun that's great on the go. What do you get? You get a Bo's Bird Dog. In fact, you can grab 2 of them for $5. So when you're on the go, headed to practice, or need a snack, grab a Bo's Bird Dog. Hurry in before they're gone. Available for a limited time. It's bow time.
There's no time like bow time, but sometimes it's go time. No time to stop, but the perfect time for a Bojangles Bird Dog. A seasoned to perfection Bojangles Chicken Supremes, dill pickles, and Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, all tucked inside a toasted bun. Great on the go. Try 2 Bird Dogs for just $5 or 2 Bird Dog combo for just $8.25. Available for limited time only. When you're hungry for flavor and value, it's bow time.
My name is Luis Fonsi. No one should face Alzheimer's or other dementias alone. Resources are available at alz.org and by calling the Alzheimer's Association's 24/7 free hotline at 800-272-3900.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you bought that TV in a parking lot. It just happened to not come in a box or include a remote. And when you finally managed to turn it on, all it displayed was the menu of Grumpy's Tacos. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I'm attorney Brian Richie. Workers' comp can be tricky, but my law firm will be on top of all the complicated paperwork and sneaky deadlines so that all of your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. If you've been hurt on the job, I'm on top of it. Contact us at richielaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
I'm WRAL meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. Looking at mid-80s for our highs this afternoon with the clouds and showers and storms out there. It's keeping our temperatures a bit cooler. Expect some heavy downpours through the afternoon, but then the rain tapers off overnight tonight with a low of 71. Tomorrow we're back into the 90s and we'll see mostly sunny skies and the dry conditions continue through the weekend. Good news for fireworks or whatever you have planned for the holiday weekend.
Weather report brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 3 o'clock check of your money. Dow Jones is down 30 points to 44,463.
Gets the shot through, they score! He put some stank on it. Logan Stankoven's first goal in his first game. Stankoven with a drive. He scores! Martin comes up with a loose puck. He feeds the rookie and Logan Stankoven's first goal in the playoffs with the Canes. And it's Stankoven. He scores! A power play goal for Logan Stankoven. His second of the period puts the Canes up 3-0.
On Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan.
Nikolai Ehlers is not signed with the Carolina Hurricanes. Not yet. Keyword yet. He hasn't signed with anybody. I know Canes fans, everyone tuning in right now, are wondering about that. So we're just going to go ahead and put that out right now. But he hasn't signed with anybody. But we hope to potentially hear something today. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max Gorham producing the show today. Coming up here literally in about not even 15 minutes from now, 3:15, Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us right here on The Drive at 3:15. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. We'll keep you updated on the latest things regarding the Carolina Hurricanes in the NHL. And Max, that's where we start with the big 3 at 3. Let's go in and get to the number one thing.
Number one.
That number one story, we saw it yesterday. It happened officially after we went off air yesterday, but the reports came down that the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers were making a trade, that the deal was basically done for Keandre Miller, the defenseman. That's all part of the free agent frenzy presented by John Heister, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Lillington. Which, again, we're going to bring all the NHL news to you. And, again, we were following this, reports to it, even from 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon all the way through the show and after the show yesterday. Sometimes these things take a little bit. But Keandre Miller is officially a Carolina Hurricane, was traded yesterday for a first-round pick, a conditional first-round pick in 2026, as well as a second-round pick in 2026, and defenseman Scott Morrow, a player that we've seen really over the last couple of years, but mostly this past season for the Carolina Hurricanes. Spent a bulk of the season in the American Hockey League with Chicago, was an all-star with the Wolves in Chicago, but he is on his way to New York. Keandre Miller, who we are hoping to get on the show tomorrow. We tried to get him on today. Schedule-wise, things didn't quite work out, but we're hoping to get Keandre Miller on the show tomorrow. But Keandre Miller did speak to the media earlier today via Zoom. And, well, Keandre Miller is excited to be joining a fast team in the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. I think we've always had great battles in New York, at least when I was on the other side, playing against Carolina. They have such a fast team. They get up and down the ice in a fast motion, and they do everything as a team. It's a fun group to watch, and they've had a lot of success recently. So I'm excited to join that style of game, and they have a great team over there. So I'm excited.
All right, so again, that's Keandre Miller with the media earlier today. We'll have some more sound bites and for you a little bit later on today. But speed is something that he is known for. He's a tremendously fast skater, tremendously skilled skater, very young. We all know the Carolina Hurricanes want to play fast, but he also brings that size as well. Again, I mentioned, we'll dive more into Keandre Miller here in a little bit here at about 3:30, but I mentioned physicality. Now, it's funny how people took yesterday when I said physicality when it comes to Keandre Miller. Over the last 4 years, his number of hits are greater than any other Canes blue liner over the last 4 years. So I'm not saying he's the most physical guy in the world or he's just a brute out there on the ice, but he does add physicality to the Canes. So let's all keep that in mind. So again, Keandre Miller officially introduced by the Carolina Hurricanes today. Gets us to number 2. Max. Number two in our big 3 at 3. There's still a big fish out there in the very shallow pond that is free agency.
Very shallow at this point.
Yeah, well, it was shallow to begin with. I think some of the puddles outside here outside of our station from the rain are deeper than the talent pool of free agents that's out there right now. But that big fish in that very small pond still out there. Well, that's Nikolai Ehlers. Nikolai Ehlers going into free agency yesterday really was the top guy. Because we saw on Monday Aaron Ekblad re-signed with the Florida Panthers. We saw Brad Marchand re-sign with the Florida Panthers. We saw Vegas and Toronto strike a deal to send Mitch Marner from Toronto to the Golden Knights in Vegas, and sign and trade just like the Carolina Hurricanes did with Keandre Miller. But that took place even before the open market actually hit. So a lot of the big names that were out there, Sam Bennett re-signed with Florida, a bunch of these guys that were potential signings for the teams around the NHL, a lot of guys stuck with the same teams that they had. And we also did see some of the big moves. For example, Noah Dobson got traded last week from the New York Islanders, the defenseman, to the Montreal Canadiens. We saw that take place Friday last week. So a lot of the big moves already happened before free agency actually began. And because a lot of teams out there had increased cap space because the salary cap jumped up about $7.5 million from last year. So a lot of teams were all floating around with that extra cap space. Everyone's like, well, yeah, let's keep our guys. We don't have to worry about buyouts potentially for players, or do I need to trade some players for prospects and picks in order to open up cap space to sign somebody? Well, guess what? I can just hold on to my own guys. So a lot of guys didn't hit free agency, and I mentioned all those moves that happened before, but nonetheless, Nikolai Ehlers is still floating around out there. Now, Chris Johnston of The Athletic posted earlier today that we should hopefully expect to hear something regarding Nikolai Ehlers at some point today. And trust me, if that news happens, we're going to break it for you, because I know Emily Kaplan of ESPN, she posted, I think it was Washington was very interested in Nikolai Ehlers. Obviously, Carolina is very high in Nikolai Ehlers. And Max, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she even said Tampa.
I believe she did.
Yeah, Tampa, which I'm like, Tampa, you have like $1 million or $2 million in cap space. I don't know how you make that work, but hey, you never know. So there are definitely some teams that were interested in Nikolai Ehlers, Carolina being one of them. By the way, Eric Tulski said yesterday in his media availability in the afternoon that, hey, they're still in. Like, they're in on going after Nikolai Ehlers. He even said it himself yesterday, and I'll ask him about it here in about 7 minutes. But they're in on Nikolai Ehlers. It's really just you're just waiting for him to decide. That's really it. You're just kind of waiting and seeing what's out there, or in terms of waiting and seeing what his decision is. And I think there's a lot of teams that are, at least the ones that are in on Nikolai Ehlers, are kind of anticipating, like, okay, if we don't get him, who else do we need to go get to go fill out the roster? Because guys like, for example, Jack Roslovic's still floating around out there. 22 goal scorer this past season. Now, team might not look at him, obviously, as like a top 6 guy consistently, but, hey, he can be a third-line winger. If we got to slide him into center, we can on a pinch. If he needs to play up in the lineup for a little stretch, if a guy gets hurt, he can do that, but he can be a third-line winger for us. Well, we don't know if we get Nikolai Ehlers, if someone's going to slide down the lineup, maybe we don't need to sign Jack Roslovic. So teams are going to be kind of waiting and seeing on that. Which kind of gets to the third big thing.
Number 3.
Free agency for the NHL has been kind of slow.
It's been real sleepy with all the guys re-signing.
It really has been. Now, there were some big names obviously out there. We mentioned Nikolai Ehlers, still waiting and seeing. The big move yesterday, at least involving the Carolina Hurricanes, or 2 moves, but they re-signed Logan Stankoven to the contract extension, but it was a trade to get Keandre Miller. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes did make a couple of like low-end but organizational depth at goaltending. Like, they traded a 7th-round pick in 2026 to Montreal to get Caden Primo, son of Keith Primo, former Carolina Hurricane. But they signed him to a 1-year contract. He was a restricted free agent. They signed him to a 1-year contract. He had a pretty good year in the American Hockey League this year. He can go to Chicago, play in the American Hockey League, and if someone gets hurt, he can bring him up as to be a backup goaltender for you. Like, so they've got that in their system as well. So they've done those kinds of moves. They've signed Tyson Jost again to a 2-way contract, so they can send him down to the American Hockey League, which is where he's going to play. And if a couple guys get hurt, you call him up and you can plug him in on the 4th line, and you don't miss a beat. But here's the thing. It's been a little bit of a slower news day in terms of the NHL. It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max Gorin producing the show. It is the free agent frenzy presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Lillington. And joining us on the Heister Automotive Group headline here in 2 minutes, it's going to be the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulski, joins us next.
Joining us on this episode are real Spectrum customers, Monique and Greg. We hear your family is a big fan of Spectrum.
Family of 4, we have about 18 devices last time I counted.
2 teams require a lot of speed. Everything they do is online.
There's gaming, there's streaming. Spectrum is perfect for us. I mean, it just seamlessly connects all our devices with lightning speed.
Sounds like Spectrum is really committed to keeping you connected.
It's amazing.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. See if you're a winner every night. Watch live lottery drawings on WRAL-TV's 11 o'clock news. That's right, Carolina Pick 3, Carolina Pick 4, and Carolina Cash 5 numbers every night on WRAL-TV's 11 o'clock news. See if you're a winner before you go off to bed. Get your lottery numbers live every night.
North Carolina Education Lottery.
Only on WRAL-TV's 11 o'clock news.
It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, it's the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulski. Eric, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on the show this afternoon. By the way, feel free to break any news maybe regarding Nikolai Ehlers if you want to. Feel free to go ahead and do that right now if you want to, Eric.
If I had any news, I'd be happy to share it.
That's totally fair. I know yesterday, Eric, you spoke yesterday about you guys being in on Nikolai Ehlers, and you guys had pitched him. Is it just basically just kind of waiting to see what Ehlers is deciding, just basically waiting on his decision?
Yep, that's where we are right now.
All right, that's fair. I think a lot of teams around the NHL are probably anticipating that right now. Again, that's Canes general manager Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Let's go into the big move you made yesterday regarding Keandre Miller. What is it about Miller's skill set that makes him a great fit, not only for Carolina, but also will fully unlock his potential?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really powerful, explosive skater. And the way we ask our defensemen to defend, we want them to apply pressure all the time and get into guys. And he has the explosiveness to close out. And he's big and physical and can apply real pressure when he does that and make it hard on people.
So I remember last week on Friday after the first round of the draft, you talked about how a lot of teams in the NHL weren't looking to make trades for futures, and most teams were looking to, if they were trading players, they would get players in return. When did you identify that Keandre could be a player that you could acquire without having to give up really anybody on your full-time roster?
Yeah, we had talked to the Rangers about it for a couple of weeks. You know, they were definitely looking at the free agent market and wondering if there was somebody out there who they might want to bring in, and then they would need to move some people to clear space to be able to do that.
Eric, I asked you last week on Friday after the first round of the draft about how the new collective bargaining agreement, when it starts next year, will impact the maximum length of contracts, and if that would impact any decisions made by free agents or potentially players that you go after with, you know, current players you can only sign to 8 years is going to go down to 7, and then free agents will go from 7-year terms down to 6-year terms, and how much that impact that could possibly have. How much did that weigh in on making sure when you traded for Keandre Miller that you got that 8th year as part of the sign and trade? How valuable was that to you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's important, right? The cap's going up a lot, and that 8th year, the cap will be very high, and he will still be in his prime, you know, maybe at the tail end of his prime, but he should still be very effective. Obviously, you're taking some risk when you sign someone that long. There's a lot of things that can go poorly, but if it goes well, I think we'll be in really good shape, and glad we got that extra year at this price.
Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. I know there's a lot of questions and speculation about, well, who's going to play on their offside? You have 4 left-handed defensemen. You have 2 right-handed defensemen. Who are you guys looking at possibly playing on their right side?
Yeah, I mean, it could be any of them. So the coaches will feel out how they want to do. I know Gostis Bear's done it a lot. I know Slavin's done it a little. I believe any of them can do it. It's just a matter of where they see the best fit and how they want to set things up.
Eric, I know you've written in the past about how important it is for NHL teams to carry the puck into the zone as opposed to just an old dump and chase style of method. How does Keandre's skill set add to that, even from the blue line, where he can bring the puck up the ice and help enter zones without, you know, just like I said, chipping the puck into the corner?
Yeah, he's very effective at skating with the puck. He has a powerful stride and good control of it, and he can create space for himself and get himself up the ice with the puck. You know, we also, the way we play, we actually do play a fair amount of dump and chase because we want to play fast. And so a lot of the time the goal is just get the puck into their end as fast as we can and get after them and get on them. And, sometimes the fastest way to get on the attack is to dump it in and get after it.
I know, Eric, when you traded for Mikko Rantanen, I'm sorry, not for Mikko Rantanen, but when Alexander Nikishin was coming over here from Russia, you tweeted out a little emoji of an airplane. So we expect just a simple emoji tweet from you at some point here in the next day or two. I was hoping that we might get that yesterday with Keandre Miller.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to keep it mixing up. I don't want you to know what's coming next time, so we'll see how I handle it.
Always keeping us guessing. Eric Tulski, Canes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Speaking of a player, 8-year contract, Logan Stankoven, a player that you got a deal done that you announced yesterday, 8 years, $6 million a year. What is it about not just the skill set that Logan Stankoven brings, but also just the mentality that fits so well into the Canes culture that you identified him as being a core guy for really the next 9 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, again, the way we want to play, we want to put pressure on people and we want to be really competitive and get into them and make it hard for them. He's not the biggest guy, but he is extremely competitive and he fights for every inch and he makes you work for it.
What do you anticipate as a ceiling possibly for Logan Stankoven? Do you look at him and you say he's 22 years old, by the time he reaches his age 25 season, we expect him to be a consistent 50-point scorer or 25-goal guy. Where do you see as his potential ceiling is with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? So far, I think he's beaten every expectation that's ever been put on him, so it's hard to put a ceiling on someone like that. We'll just have to watch him keep growing and see how far he gets.
Eric, I know going into this offseason, you all had a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with cap space, draft capital, a deep prospect pool, and you obviously dipped into that yesterday. But you still have that flexibility where you can still make moves, whether it's this offseason or even during the season. How set up are you guys for not only making moves right now, but even during the season, if you have a major injury, you got to make a move or you got to make a change, that you are set up to still make these moves and don't really have to stress about, are we going to be pressed against the cap or maybe we're too low on picks or prospects? How valuable is that flexibility for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to be in a position where we're never going to lose out on something because we just couldn't afford it. Right? We have all the money we want. We have all the assets we could need. It's just a question of making sure we find the right fit and finding the players who want to be here and getting after them and getting them in here. Most of the time, the salary cap places limitations on teams. And right now, I'm just fortunate to be in a spot where it's not really limiting. It's just a question of where we can find opportunity to bring players in who can help us.
And an area where you have flexibility, I guess you can say, is even going into next year. I always think about, future moves that this team could make. Pretty much your entire roster, with the exception of Mark Jankowski and Frederik Andersen, you have either under contract or under control as a restricted free agent next season. For you to have that kind of continuity from one year to the next, how much do you expect this team to grow, not only as a unit, obviously individual players getting better, but just the growth potential of this team going forward because of that cohesion?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something we really haven't had in a long time here. I think we always try to be one of the most active teams in the league, and we don't want to miss any chances to make our team better. And so we have had a lot of turnover over the years because of that. I think this is probably the first time we've had this many of our players sort of in place and settled this far in advance.
All right, final thing for you, Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Final thing for you, I know, again, Logan Stankoven signed that 8-year contract extension. You do have a couple guys in their final year of their entry-level contracts, and Jackson Blake as well as Alexander Nikishin. Have the conversations been taking place with their agents and about potential deals and contract extensions for those guys as well?
Yep, we've had an initial conversation with each of them. I don't know yet where any of them are going to end up, but we would love to do them early if we could.
All right, Eric, thanks so much for your time. I know you got to get back to work. It's a busy time for you. And I will be looking for that the Nikolai Ehlers extension announcement coming up here soon. By the way, feel free. You still have a few minutes if you want to break that news. You're more than welcome to right now, Eric.
If I had news for you, I would share it.
I know you would. Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks so much for your time. And congratulations on making the deal so far and continued luck this offseason.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Heathrow Automotive Group hotline. Max, I don't know why I'm getting the gut feeling of that we're going to hear a Nikolai Ehlers, signing here in the next 10 minutes.
Well, I feel like
he's holding it right up the sleeve.
He was a little concise. I think maybe he was trying to get off the phone so he can go finish that up.
He might be. Maybe he had a text going through. Maybe he had something, a text or a call or something going through. Eric really is a legit great guy, and I always enjoy talking to him for sure. But that's the biggest thing out there, and about the continuity. And there's a purpose why I asked him about the cohesiveness as well as the continuity from one year to the next for this roster. Is that everyone on this team? So with the exception again, Mark Jankowski and Frederik Andersen. The guys that are going to be regular NHL players for this team this upcoming season. Mark Jankowski and Frederik Andersen are the only two guys that aren't under control by the Carolina Hurricanes next year, whether being under contract or the Canes have that player's rights. So Jackson Blake, Alexander Nikishin, they're in the final years of their entry-level contracts. They're restricted free agents next year. So the Carolina Hurricanes still have that cost control. But everyone else is, most of these guys are under contract at least 2 years, if not even longer. The guys that are really only under contract for the next 2 years are Jordan Martinook, Jordan Staal, Shane Gostisbehere, and Jalen Chatfield. Those guys are all with 2 years left on their deal. Everyone else is 3-4 years or longer. Sebastian Aho signed till 2032. Svechnikov has signed through the 29 season. Seth Jarvis is signed through 2032. Kotkaniemi through 2030. Taylor Hall signed for the next 3 years. William Carrier, 5 more years. Eric Robinson, 4 more years. Stankoven, after this year, has 8 more, so he's 9 years.
8 more for Jacob Slavin, too.
8, yeah, exactly. His extension actually kicks in this year. So you have 8 years of Jacob Slavin, 8 years of Keandre Miller, 4 more years of Sean Walker. You have a couple years left on the contract for Pyotr Kochetkov. There's so much cohesion on this team and just continuity, but even with all those guys that I mentioned, they're still under contract. They still have $18.2 million of cap space right now, which they could easily free up about $775,000 of that. They did re-sign Tyson Jost to a 2-way contract. You can send him down to the American Hockey League without a problem. And that allows you to have an extra guy floating around. And there's still young prospects that they potentially want to bring up, but is there a spot for Bradley Nadeau to actually come up and make this team? That's actually a question to think about as well, is that you do have some really good young prospects on your team, but then you also look at, for a guy like Bradley Nadeau, is that all these guys I just mentioned that are under contract for the next couple years, where's there a spot for Bradley Nadeau? I think that was also one of the reasons that made Scott Morrow expendable for the Keandre Miller deal, which we'll dive here into that in just a little bit, but where do these guys actually fit in? Then again, even after 2 years, when Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook, their contracts are up, okay, there's still not a lot of spots that need to be filled.
It's a very cohesive unit, but you do have to kind of strike the balance between keeping what has been successful, but also realizing they do have to change a few things just to be able to get over that ultimate hump. Because obviously the team works so well together, and they've bought into the culture, and it's a great locker room. And they've had a lot of success, but again, to get to that next level, there does need to be some level of change as well. So I think Tulsky's going to do a good job of kind of striking that perfect balance between keeping the right pieces together, but also bringing in that extra hired gun to help finish things off and finish the job and get to that ultimate goal that they've been trying to get to.
They're right there on the cusp. Look, you don't make the conference final 2 out of the last 3 years on accident. You just don't. And like he said, they've been one of the more active teams in the league in terms of trying to find guys and add different pieces. And they've gotten close. But maybe it's the consistency from one year to the next, because you shouldn't miss a beat. Hopefully, if anything, especially the younger guys that you have on your roster, you anticipate Seth Jarvis to still take a step. you anticipate Jackson Blake to take a step. Not saying like Jackson Blake's going to be like a 35-goal guy. I mean, unless he's going to do it, and ain't going to complain about that. But Stankoven, you expect to elevate and take a step. Keandre Miller's 25 years old. He's still growing in terms of his development as a player. Keandre Miller even mentioned today that he likes to watch Jacob Slavin play and actually learn, and is trying to learn as much as he can and emulate as much as the way that Jacob Slavin plays the game. Now, Jacob Slavin, in terms of his ability, or I guess his level of play, didn't happen overnight. It definitely took some work. But if Keandre Miller can, being around Jacob Slavin just through osmosis, continue to develop and evolve his game, then you anticipate him growing as well. Even Sebastian Aho still has another level that he can get to. Same with Andrei Svechnikov, who's 25 years old. Still has a level that he can get to elevate his play. It's all about finding the guys that fit well with the team. That's what Eric Tulski in this front office has done a really good job of doing. By the way, if you missed any of that Eric Tulski interview that we just had, 4:15, we'll replay it for you guys. In case you missed it, 4:15, Eric Tulski will have a replay of the interview, the conversation that we just had with the Carolina Hurricanes general manager.
And it'll be available on our YouTube, 99.9 The Fan. We're working on the climb to 18,000 subscribers. Need about 150, 200 more. We're getting real close. So search 99.9 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe. If you're not in your car, you can watch the live stream of our show as well.
And you can leave thoughts in the comments in the YouTube live chat as well.
The chat is popping today. Lots of people on pins and needles waiting for updates on Nikolai Ehlers and many other things.
Speaking of Nikolai Ehlers, Will Parks actually just said this on our YouTube live chat. If Ehlers chooses the Washington Capitals over the Carolina Hurricanes, he doesn't care about winning. Great point. Definitely a great point. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max Gorham producing the show. Speaking of Keandre Miller, I think something that we lose sight of when it comes to transactions in sports, and that's multiple things can be true. I'll explain next.
Westwood One Sports presents this special tennis update sponsored by Kohl's. Make the most of summer with stylish looks from Kohl's and Kohl's.com, where families come first. Wimbledon's second-round victories for a couple of women who've won Grand Slams, but it's been a while. Naomi Osaka won a slam every year from 2018 through 2021. Hasn't won much of anything since. She's into the third round. She won in straight sets. So did England's Emma Raducanu, the 2021 U.S. Open champion. Hasn't made it to a quarterfinal of the slam since then. Madison Keys won earlier this year in Australia. Her straight set victory makes her 13-1 in Grand Slam matches in 2025. Is Keys the last American hope? With the losses yesterday by Coco Gauff and Jess Pegula, those losses should help top seed Aryna Sabalenka, who lost to Gauff in the recent French final. The top seed won today in straight sets. So did Carlos Alcaraz. American Francis Tiafoe upset by Britain's Cam Norrie. John Stanshauer, Westwood One Sports.
If your family's summer style needs a little pick-me-up, you've got to go to Kohl's. They have everything from polos and cute dresses to comfy kids' outfits and Sephora essentials, plus more. Not to mention, you can get 20% off some of your faves and earn Kohl's cash. Yup, summer's already looking more stylish, all thanks to Kohl's. Select styles. Offer ends July 6th. Some exclusions apply. Coupons and Kohl's cash do not apply to Sephora. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
During KFC $10 Tuesdays, you can get a bucket of golden brown juicy chicken plus 4 dipping sauces for just $10. Or see what $10 gets you at a coffee shop.
Okay, now before you enjoy this coffee, let me explain the process each individual.
Anyway, enjoy KFC $10 Tuesdays. Get your choice of 8 original recipe tenders with 4 sauces or classic fried chicken, both seasoned with our secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. Only at KFC. It's finger licking good. Prices and participation vary while supplies last. Taxes, tips, and fees extra.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things. Like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Are you annoyingly inattentive? Do you watch a movie and then ask a zillion questions because you weren't paying attention? Do people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should get a mattress from Mattress Firm. They can help anyone sleep. Mattress Firm's July 4th sale is on now. Get a king bed for a queen price and save up to $700. Plus, get a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
No update on Nikolai Ehlers. Nothing yet. But we do know that the Carolina Hurricanes have offered, that they've talked to him. Eric Tulski said it himself. The Canes general manager. It's the Draft with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. The big move that did happen yesterday for the Carolina Hurricanes, outside of the Logan Stankoven contract extension, it was the addition of Keandre Miller on the blue line for the Carolina Hurricanes. As our free agent frenzy continues. Presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Lillington. Something we have to keep in mind when it comes to the Keandre Miller trade. And that's multiple things can be true. I saw so much discord about, did the Rangers win? Did the Canes give up too much? Was it too big of a contract? All these kinds of things. Multiple things can be true. It's like, well, New York won that trade. I'm like, well, did they? How about both things can be true? Number one, the compensation can be great for New York, but the player can also be great for Carolina. Or you can even just say good for New York and good for Carolina. Carolina wasn't going for a rental this season when it came to a top 4 defenseman. They had a void there. If they just went for a rental for this upcoming season for a top 4 defenseman, that actually would have been a waste of assets. So they had to target a player that, A, fits the skill set required to play in their system, B, was available at a cost where the current players on the roster didn't need to be moved, and C, had to find a player that was willing to sign a long-term deal with the team. Now, the New York Rangers didn't have Keandre Miller. Basically, it's part of their long-term plans, and that's okay. And Keandre Miller even said earlier today in his media availability that he heard the noise and it was kind of in the back of his head this past year. Now, the Rangers signed Gavrikov from the LA Kings on a 7-year contract. Okay, well then Miller became expendable. I mean, we've seen great defensemen and even good defensemen get traded this offseason. Noah Dobson got traded from the New York Islanders up to the Montreal Canadiens. Not saying that Keandre Miller is Noah Dobson, but we've seen defensemen get moved. Rasmus Anderson from the Calgary Flames is a potential name that could get moved out there. But the Rangers didn't have Miller as part of their long-term plans, and that's okay. The Rangers got a couple of high picks in 2026, which, by the way, the Carolina Hurricanes do have protection on if it's the higher of the 2 picks they have, because remember, they got a first-round pick from the Dallas Stars in 2026 as part of the Mikko Rantanen trade. So there is some protection with that pick. So they got a high pick in the first round as well as a pick in the second round, and they got a pretty good young player in Scott Morrow, but a player that still needs development into being an everyday NHL player, especially if he wants to play as a top 4 defenseman. Now, he has the skill set and the build, but there's definitely some refining to his game that needs to take place. We all saw the playoffs. So that's the first thing. One, the compensation is good for New York, and the player could be good for Carolina. The second thing is the Carolina Hurricanes had the resources to make this move. What were we praising about the Carolina Hurricanes about this offseason, at least going into the offseason? We lauded the Canes. And it wasn't just me. It wasn't just fans. It wasn't just people that cover the NHL and the team. It was pretty much everybody. That the Carolina Hurricanes had the resources available to make these kinds of moves. They came into the offseason with about $27 million in cap space, had 5 first-round picks over the next 3 years, and a deep prospect pool. And guess what? They used some of that for this deal. What's the point of having all that cap space and that draft capital and these prospects if you don't use it in some way? When the Canes traded Mikko Rantanen to the Dallas Stars, they got 2 firsts, 2 thirds, and Logan Stankoven in return. Now, Logan Stankoven, you quickly realize, is part of your core, and obviously they signed into a long-term deal. And obviously they got the extra first-round pick. And they used that first-round pick in 2026, or one of them, the extra pick they have, to go get Miller. It was part of the deal. And you did give away one of your good prospects in Scott Morrow, but it's not like the Carolina Hurricanes gave up a can't-miss player. They didn't give up Alexander Nikishin. We saw Morrow struggle in the playoffs. Again, I think he could be a good player. Don't get me wrong. But again, he's not Nikishin in terms of a prospect. And there's other guys that they've drafted in recent years as defensemen that people feel excited about their long-term potential. Dominic Badinka is their second-round pick from last year, who's 19 years old. People are like, yeah, this guy actually might be pretty damn good. As we talked about a little bit ago after speaking with Eric Tulski, that a player's not going to be needed from their prospect pool probably for the next couple of years, which gets me to the third thing. The contract for Keandre Miller at $7.5 million a year and the compensation that went to New York doesn't hold the Carolina Hurricanes back from making any sort of moves. And that's something we asked Eric Tulski about. $7.5 million a year doesn't hold back the Canes from doing anything they want to do, either this offseason, during this upcoming season before the trade deadline, or in the future. But let's be honest, those 2026 draft picks, they're not going to help you win a cup anytime soon. At the earliest, those picks, even if they even make it to the NHL, probably won't see the ice until, 2039, 2030? And Scott Morrow wasn't going to be on your team this year as a regular player unless there was an injury. The Canes still have plenty of picks over the next few years. I know in 2026 they don't have a whole lot, but they have plenty of picks over the next few years at their disposal to draft players. And we all know how much the Carolina Hurricanes are willing to trade back and acquire more picks. We saw them just this past draft have 1 first, 1 third, 1 fourth, a couple 6th and a 7th. You know what they walked out with? 3 seconds, 2 thirds, a 6th and a 7th. They ended up picking 5 players in rounds 2 and 3, going into the draft with just 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. The Canes still have a deep prospect pool, which they can still tap into if they want to bring guys up in the future. If they happen to do make trades, they can have guys that can supplement the roster from their prospects pool, or they can potentially use them to acquire another player. If you look again at the Canes roster going forward as of right now, it's Mark Jankowski and Frederik Andersen that are really set to hit the open market a year from now. Now, I understand they signed Mike Riley to a 1-year contract. I get it. But Jackson Blake, Alexander Nikishin, those guys are restricted free agents. The Canes control their rights. So you have everyone set to come back pretty much. And if you wanted to re-sign Jankowski after this season, probably not going to cost you a whole lot. Carolina still has about $19 million in cap space right now. And they don't have to spend the money if they don't want to. Even if they go out and get Nikolai Ehlers, you still have plenty of cap space. They could go acquire a player during the season without hesitation. They don't have to worry about doing anything about salary cap gymnastics or being strapped for cash. They don't have to worry about that.
You have to wonder, and I kind of wish we had asked this to Eric Tulski when he was on our show a few minutes ago, whether or not they maybe are sitting on a little bit of that cap space, seeing maybe something like the center market isn't as strong right now, but they think perhaps during the season an option become available, a team in the basement maybe looking to sell off would be willing to move a player that they're not willing to move right now. You did ask him about having that flexibility, and like we mentioned earlier, it seems like he's well aware of having that and not cap strapping the team, and they're about as far from that as possible right now. So I wonder if there are particular players they have their eyes on teams that maybe are not expected to be all that good this season, or teams that could go either way, and maybe if it doesn't start out great, they might be, looking to move somebody off. But, it's definitely a good spot. There's a lot of directions they could go with all that space.
As I was saying, they don't have to worry about doing salary cap gymnastics. And next year, the salary cap, it's projected to be around $104 million. So the cap currently this year is $95.5 million. It's projected to go up to about 104. So basically $8.5 million jump or so. And even with Logan Stankoven's contract extension kicking in, the Canes still have plenty of cap space to make moves. Let alone 2 years from now when the salary cap jumps to $113 million. So again, going back to the $7.5 million cap hit for Keandre Miller in a couple of seasons when it's a $113 million salary cap, it's only 6.6% of the cap. That's it. That's it. This team has still set themselves up to be able to compete right now. So the Keandre Miller deal, yes, people say, well, that's a first, it's a second, and it's a player going back. Guess what? The Canes could afford it in both ways. And they didn't mortgage any of their future in order to make this deal happen.
And those picks will be late in first round, late second round.
Exactly. It's, pick 25 in the draft. Like I said, that guy probably won't see an NHL ice until 4 years? 5? If they even see it at all. The Miller deal doesn't hold back Carolina from doing anything. Now, is there still work to do? Yes, we'll dive into that a little bit later on. But speaking of Keandre Miller, he did speak to the media earlier today. We'll have some of those sound bites and more for you next here on The Drive. Maxed out on credit cards, struggling with high interest debt? You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Dennis Cox. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is A+ rated by the BBB and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Their service is off the charts. Call now to start the conversation. 919-381-1760, loanpronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
It's bow time. Something new just dropped at Bojangles. Take the bold taste of a crispy golden chicken supreme that's been seasoned to perfection, then add dill pickles, Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, and a toasted bun that's great on the go. What do you get? You get a Bo's Bird Dog. In fact, you can grab 2 of them for $5. So when you're on the go, headed to practice, or need a snack, grab a Bo's Bird Dog. Hurry in before they're gone. Available for a limited time. It's bow time.
There's no time like bow time, but sometimes it's go time. No time to stop, but the perfect time for a Bojangles Bird Dog. A seasoned to perfection Bojangles Chicken Supremes, dill pickles, and Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, all tucked inside a toasted bun. Great on the go. Try 2 Bird Dogs for just $5 or 2 Bird Dog Combo for just $8.25. Available for limited time only. When you're hungry for flavor and value, it's bow time.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. All kinds of beers and thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Hi, Zoe Saldana. Welcome to T-Mobile. Here's your new iPhone 16 Pro on us.
Thanks. And here's my old phone to trade in.
You don't need a trade-in. When you switch to T-Mobile, we'll give you a new iPhone 16 Pro. Plus, we'll help you pay off your old phone up to $800, and you still get to keep it.
There's always a trade-in.
Not right now at T-Mobile.
I feel like I have to give you something in return for karma.
That's okay.
I don't really have much in my purse. Oh, let's see. Hand sanitizer. It's lavender.
I'm good, seriously.
Let me check this pocket. Oh, mints?
Really, I'm fine.
Oh, I have raisins. I'm a mom. Wait 1 sec. I've got cupcakes in the car.
It's our best iPhone offer ever. Switch to T-Mobile. Get a new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. No trade-in needed. We'll even pay off your phone up to $800.
With 24 monthly bill credits, new line $100 plus a month on experience beyond finance agreement $999.99 and qualifying ported. For well qualified plus tax and $10 connection charge. Pay off via virtual prepaid card allow 15 days. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. See T-Mobile.com.
So, Nikolai Ehlers still has not signed with anybody. No announcement yet. Don't worry, folks. We will keep you updated. I mean, by all accounts, it could be... All amounts could be Carolina. Potentially Washington is apparently in the mix, the Capitals. But as one of our subscribers on YouTube said, on our YouTube live chat said, if Nikolai Ehlers cares about winning, he wouldn't sign in Washington, which makes sense. It's fair. It's a very good point. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99. Now the Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max Gorin producing the show. The free agent frenzy continues here on 99.9 The Fan. And Keandre Miller, who actually wasn't, he was a restricted free agent going into this offseason, but comes to Carolina as part of a sign and trade with the New York Rangers. 8 years, $60 million total. That's $7.5 million a year. We are going to try and get Keandre Miller on the show tomorrow. We are attempting to do so. We tried to get him today. Unfortunately, with his schedule and things, it just didn't quite work out. We're hoping to get him on the show tomorrow. But he did speak to the media earlier this morning. We got some of those sound bites for you, including how Keandre Miller really is excited to join a team that skates and plays at the speed that Carolina does.
I mean, I think we've always had great battles in New York, at least when I was on the other side, playing against Carolina. They have such a fast team. They get up and down the ice in a fast motion, and they do everything as a team. It's a fun group to watch, and they've had a lot of success recently. So I'm excited to join that style of game, and they have a great team over there. So I'm excited.
Now, a lot of players that come to the Carolina Hurricanes have said, I'm grateful I don't have to play against the Carolina Hurricanes anymore with the speed and the pace in which they play and just how they really are just relentless all across the ice. And Keandre Miller said, well, let's be honest, he's not going to miss playing against the Canes.
I think just the speed. I think it's going to be so much fun being on the other side and being able to add to that speed and getting up and down the rush and not getting hemmed in our D zone. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, it sucks to play against the Carolina Hurricanes. It does. One of the things that I enjoy doing is covering the team and going to games. There are oftentimes I actually like to go to the other team's locker room just to hear what other players say about the team. Like, what are things I pick up that another team or another player might say about the Canes, about how they play, what it's like to play in the Lenovo Center, and is there any sort of things that kind of stick out, or if there's a continued comments about the team about how difficult it is to play against them. And the thing I've constantly heard from players on opposing teams is when they play the Carolina Hurricanes, they give you really no inch. And it's no different than what the Florida Panthers do, by the way. We all saw it in the playoffs, and we've seen it multiple years in the playoffs against the Florida Panthers about how the Florida Panthers don't give you an inch either. Carolina plays that exact same way. And every time I hear other teams, even after a win, they're like they're cooked after a game because they know how much more demanding it is to play against a team that plays so fast that is just on top of you constantly. Now, there is a possibility with the Carolina Hurricanes having 4 left-handed defensemen with Jacob Slavin, Keandre Miller, Alexander Nikishin, Shane Gostisbehere. Having 4 left-handed defensemen and only 2 right-handed defensemen with Jalen Chatfield and Sean Walker. Well, one of those lefties is going to have to play on the right side. Keandre Miller also did talk about how he is comfortable playing on his offside.
I think in the game of hockey, I think everything kind of happens so quick that you get stuck sometimes on the right side that, I don't know, you just have to bear with it and play your shift. I don't know. It happens so quick, like I said. I've played right. I've played left. Pretty comfortable with both. In the offensive zone, I think obviously it's a little bit easier to pick up pucks and being on that right side and having your stick to the middle of the ice to get shots through the net. I think that that's going to be a fun challenge for me. Something a little bit different, but I'm excited for it. So.
There are different times in the course of a game just from playing that you might end up, if you're like a left side defenseman, that you end up being on the right side just by the way the game happens, just the flow of the game. So you do get comfortable, or at least used to at times, playing on your quote-unquote offside. Now, when it comes to, for example, when the puck is in the offensive zone, you often see the defenseman jump up from the blue line to help keep the puck in. It's a lot easier to keep the puck in along the boards if you're on your forehand, as opposed to doing it on your backhand. It's a lot easier in that regard. But there are some advantages if your puck's to the middle of the ice where you can, if the puck's in the high slot, it's a lot easier to possibly get shots through to the net, those kinds of things. So there's a give and take with both. Now, sometimes it can be difficult even on breakouts, depending on what you have to do, where you are on the ice. If you're left or right-handed, it can be a lot more difficult or a lot easier to make a breakout pass. But the way how fast Carolina plays, I think is going to potentially cut down on some of the turnover mistakes that have played Keandre a little bit early on in his career. Again, still 25 years old, young guy. I mentioned yesterday, Max, about his offensive upside, and someone said, well, he only had 27 points last year. It's like, do you forget the 43 points he had a couple of years ago? Like, there is that. Now, let's be honest, the Rangers team as a whole last year wasn't very good. Now, I could only imagine in a world, let's say, for example, that Rob Brindamore says, I want to keep Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker together. Makes perfect sense. They played together all last year, right? Maybe he wants to put Alexander Nikishin alongside Jalen Chatfield. Well, who's to say? Who's your best defenseman? It's Jacob Slavin, obviously, right? Maybe you put Jacob Slavin on his offside and allow Keandre Miller to play his natural side on the left, because you know Jacob Slavin is going to be great no matter what you do with him. Maybe that's the move. Maybe Slavin's on his offside, and then you have Keandre Miller up there playing with them, because you know that Jacob Slavin is going to help protect any sort of mistake that happens. He's going to help cover for you. We've seen it, right? And Keandre Miller is such a fast skater that he's going to be able to get back in defense faster than what Brent Burns was able to do. So maybe that's the play. Final thing here, which I thought was actually a really good answer from Keandre Miller earlier today, talking to the media, the newest Carolina Hurricanes defenseman. There's always been, I say always, but there's always, I just said it again. There's been a
stigma,
quote unquote, yes, a stigma or a stereotype or a misconception about how hockey players don't want to play in Raleigh. Like, they don't want to play in a southern market. They don't want to play in this area. But it's funny because Taylor Hall's like, I love it here. I want to stay here. Logan Stankoven's like, I'll stay here. All these guys continue to want to stay here. Seth Jarvis is like, I'll stay here. Sebastian Aho, I'll stay here. Slavin, I'll stay here. Brent Burns, I want to stick around here. Sean Walker signed for 5 years here. Shane Gostisbehere was here, went to Detroit and said, I want to go back to Raleigh. Anyway, but Keandre Miller did talk about what it's going to be like playing in a southern market like Raleigh.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for that aspect. The style of living and a little bit slower pace and style of living. I think that's I'm really gonna like that. Obviously, being from Minnesota, I think it's going to be very comparable, and I'm super excited for that aspect.
So he's from Minnesota, but he went to college at the University of Wisconsin, played there for a couple years. So he's used to being in college environment, college town. So I think he'll fit in, or at least get used to living in this market without a problem. I think he definitely will. I'm excited. Hopefully, again, we'll get a chance to talk to him tomorrow. Crossing fingers on that for sure. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. The Keandre Miller, we're going to do football at 4 coming up. The Keandre Miller signing, in my eyes, you're acquiring a player who's shown some promise and potential in his mid-20s with still area to grow. Kind of similar to what the Carolina Panthers did in terms of approaching their free agent offseason. We'll discuss that football 4 next.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, and it's no surprise. Same-game parlay from Bet365 just keeps getting better.
Well, it's even easier to make a bet. Choose from the most popular markets like hits, run line, totals, and home runs. So many to choose from.
Download the app, start building your bet, and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in North Carolina. T&Cs apply.
Black isn't just a color. It's the presence of infinite possibilities. It's the moment before everything changes. An invitation to something unforgettable.
I won.
Win up to $4 million with Carolina Black Premier from the North Carolina Education Lottery. Must be 18 to play. Approximate overall odds of winning are 1 in 4.18. Problem gambling helpline 877-718-5543.
That's the sound of a Mountain Dew. And that's you enjoying its refreshing citrus kick. That's a cool breeze suddenly whistling through your hair.
Whoa!
That's you realizing you're now on a mountain.
This is epic!
That's you stating the obvious.
Mountain Dew!
Do the do.
Hurry into Family Fare and get 2 20-ounce bottles of ice-cold Mountain Dew for just $4.29. Family Fare, first in thirst.
Dear McDonald's, your breakfast menu? Fire. 10s across the board. I could be happy with anything, even though I order the same thing every time. Thanks for not judging me. I'll try something new next time. Maybe.
Get your faves for less. Buy a sausage McMuffin with egg for $2.50. Add any size Sprite for $1.49. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'm attorney Brian Richie. Getting hurt in a car wreck comes with all kinds of stress and frustration. But when you call me, I'll be on top of all of it. So all you need to worry about is getting better. If you've been injured in a car wreck, I'm on top of it. Contact us at richielaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
I'm WRAL meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. Isolated showers and thunderstorms for us, but some of those are going to produce some heavy downpours. There is a small risk for flooding today. And with the clouds and the rain, cooler with a high of 85. The rain ends tonight. We'll see a low of 71, and then we're back into the 90s tomorrow. Expect 90s through the holiday weekend. It does stay dry. Good news if you have outdoor plans.
Weather report brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 4 o'clock check of your money. Dow Jones is down 10 points to 44,484.
Let's move the chains. Time for football at 4.
It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max, is Nikolai Ehlers signed yet? Is he signed? Nope. You said no?
Nope.
No? Okay. Don't worry, folks. We're going to keep you updated on the latest in terms of Nikolai Ehlers because there will be a trickle-down effect in the NHL, I feel like. Again, there's some other guys that are like, again, there's like a Jack Roslovic gets signed by another team that might be trying to get Nikolai Ehlers because they feel like he can give us a middle six forward and score 17 goals for us, whatever it might be. But apparently, reportedly, supposedly, Max, it's down to Washington and Carolina for Nikolai Ehlers. It's down to Washington and Carolina. which we'll dive more into. By the way, at 4:15, we're going to have a replay of our conversation with Eric Tulski at 4:15. So you're going to hear that conversation coming up again, 4:15. The conversation we had about 45 minutes ago with Carolina Hurricanes general manager Eric Tulski. You'll hear that conversation in full. And I asked him about Ehlers. No update. But after that conversation, we'll kind of dive more into what, if Ehlers does get signed with the team, how do things kind of shake out? How does it impact the rest of the roster going forward? But what I was thinking about for Football at 4 here, I was thinking about the Carolina Hurricanes offseason and the Carolina Panthers offseasons. About how a couple days ago we had discussed about how General Manager Dan Morgan of the Carolina Panthers and General Manager Eric Tulski of the Carolina Hurricanes feel like they're kind of cut a little bit from the same cloth in terms of finding value. Now, there are some teams out there that are like, you know what? I'll trade my picks for players. I don't care. If I want to go get somebody, whatever it costs, whatever it takes to go get somebody. Like, for example, the New Orleans Saints are notorious apparently for we'll overpay to go get somebody that we want because we want that person, and it's worth the cost. The LA Rams, for example, have traded how many first-round picks in order to go acquire current players because they're like, you know what? We much rather go that route. In some people's eyes, that's an overpay. But also, you're like, well, if it brings you a championship, then it's worth it. So, again, there's a couple different philosophies with it. But when I saw the Keandre Miller sign and trade yesterday, it did kind of remind me of what the Carolina Panthers did a little bit this offseason in terms of some of the decisions that they made in terms of free agency, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like going and signing a guy like Tershawn Wharton from the Kansas City Chiefs, who they feel like can be a good pass-rushing interior defensive lineman. Because they felt like, well, what he was asked to do in Kansas City doesn't really fully fit what they were doing. Now, he was a good player, but his skill set actually fits our system a little bit better. So we're going to go sign a guy that's in his mid-20s, pretty lucrative deal, but still has growth potential, and in our system will actually play to his fullest. Trayvon Merrick, the safety that they signed from the Vegas Raiders. A player that they signed 3-year, $51 million deal, known as being a safety that plays well up towards the line of scrimmage, can come up in the box and help in the run game a bunch. And General Manager Dan Morgan even said on this show, hey, don't sleep on him potentially being a deep safety. Don't sleep on that, because just because you haven't seen him do it in the NFL yet doesn't mean he isn't capable of doing more or showing more, because in our system, we feel like he can thrive. Same part of the reasons why, hey, let's go sign Patrick Jones from the Minnesota Vikings, because we feel like in our system, he can really get to his full potential. And then I was thinking about that same thing when it comes to the Keandre Miller sign and trade yesterday, or how the Carolina Hurricanes went and found a Logan Stankoven. Like players that might be overlooked for a certain aspect of their game, whether it's a physical thing or whatever it might be. But hey, in our system, he can thrive. Like Keandre Miller with Carolina Hurricanes, with his skating ability, his stick work, and everything that he can do, in our system, he can thrive. Now, we'll still have to continue to coach him and develop him, but as a 25-year-old player, a player that can still continue to grow. And that's the reason why you feel like some of the moves that were made this offseason by the Carolina Panthers was having that in mind. The Tershawn Wharton signing, Bobby Brown from the LA Rams as a big-time nose tackle, a player, for example, again, like Trayvon Merrick that I mentioned, guys that in their system have that growth potential. And I think that's something that we saw, Max, with the Keandre Miller sign and trade for the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday. It's not that dissimilar to what we saw the Carolina Panthers do this offseason, especially with the defensive linemen and the guys that they brought in.
Right. It's almost like a kind of like a modified like Moneyball approach, because it's not like either of these teams are like strapped for cash, but it's like finding value in players that have been not necessarily like cast aside, but players that the other teams are not looking to, keep on their roster, add on the roster, not looking to re-sign. Finding that value and then finding the best way to use it and to use their skill sets. Like if Keandre Miller, Ranger fans, some people were not the happiest with his, puck control or maybe some defensive lapses, but if you put him in the Hurricane system with his skating ability, with his size, and then you add in the coaching ability of Rod, Tim Gleason, who was a great defenseman in his own right in the NHL and can impart a lot of wisdom at that position, he can really thrive and he can bring that value that's kind of been hidden or it's been like maligned by other teams.
There is a lot of potential there. Now, potential, again, even with time with the Carolina Panthers, and again, we're kind of relating this to the Carolina Hurricanes and the Keandre Miller move, and again, even some of the other guys that they've brought in, is that even, like, for example, when they traded for Brady Shea from the New York Rangers a few years ago, kind of a similar type thing, right? It was like, hey, he's got some offensive upside, pretty good skater, but there's some defensive lapses, comes to the Kane system and thrives. Now, we saw the Carolina Panthers last year at the very end of training camp. They traded their 7th-round pick from 2024, Michael Barrett. They traded him to the Seattle Seahawks, and they got Mike Jackson as a cornerback, someone that had a little bit of familiarity with Dave Canales when Dave Canales was in Seattle, but so a little bit of familiarity there. We saw Mike Jackson become a starter for the Carolina Panthers this past year. Now, the secondary, some of their numbers weren't as great as, obviously, the defense as a whole was not very good. A, because the talent, especially along their front, wasn't very good, and also they were just ravaged by injuries. But they brought back Mike Jackson on a contract extension this offseason to play alongside J.C. Horn. That's finding value and fit and guys that fit well into your team, fit well into your system. And that, I feel like we've seen Carolina Panthers do this for a long time, the Carolina Hurricanes do that for a long time. Again, finding guys that fit. But the Carolina Panthers, I feel like we're starting to see that more and more with the decisions that they're making in terms of their roster. For so long, there was such a lack of continuity. We talked about this with Eric Tulski, the Canes general manager. You'll hear that conversation coming up here in about 5 minutes. But something that the Carolina Panthers have lacked for so long has been continuity. And this is the first time in a long time that they've had the same general manager, the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator, the same quarterback. It really has been since, I think it was 2018 into 2019, where you still have Marty Herney, Ron Rivera, Cam Newton. Like, it's really been since then. 2018 going into 2019. Now, Cam Newton was coming off the shoulder injury he suffered in 2018. Obviously, the rest is history, as they say. But it's been a while since the Panthers have had any sort of continuity on their team and in their organization. And I think you're finally starting to see that a little bit. Just look at the offensive side of the ball for the Carolina Panthers. All 5 of their starting offensive linemen from last year are back, plus all the depth guys that had to come in case of injuries. Josh Nyman, Brady Christensen, Chandler Zavala, Cade Mays, all those guys are back. Tommy Tremble's back. JT Sanders is back. Those 2 guys are back as tight ends, and they added Mitchell Evans into the mix. But wide receiver, you kept your top 4 receivers from last year with David Moore, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. Oh, and you added the piece with Tetairoa McMillan. Chuba Hubbard is your workhorse running back, 1,500 yards or so last year. You add in a 1,000-yard rusher, Enrico Dowdle, and you drafted Travis Etienne. Like, there's continuity there. And that's when I feel like if you have a good core of players, when you have continuity with coaching staff and, again, with players and culture, that's when you start to see players excel. And I think that's what we hopefully will see again continuing with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Carolina Panthers going forward. Both these pro teams that we have here in the state. Outside of the Charlotte Hornets are a mess. We're not going to count them.
Well, let's not discount their offseason.
Hey, you know what? They got a lot to prove. We'll talk about them possibly at another time. But the point is this. When I saw the Keandre Miller sign and trade for the Hurricanes, it reminded me a lot of what the Panthers were doing this offseason about finding guys that they felt fit their system, were still in their mid-20s, that had growth potential, and that they feel like can really excel in their program.
Really, that fits someone like Pat Jones, like to a T.
Yeah.
Who obviously got a lot of snaps, played a lot of games, but only started one game for the Vikings. Could be a very effective pass rusher. He had 7 sacks last season. So for a team that's looking for that, pressure on the quarterback, again, the value is there, and now put into a different situation, you can show that value.
Has Nikolai Ehlers signed yet, Max?
Checking now.
Has Nikolai Ehlers signed
No.
yet? Okay. We're waiting on that news potentially to break during the show. It's funny. It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max Gorham producing the show. It's funny because yesterday during the entire show, Graham Hill was producing yesterday. We're like, is the Keandre Miller thing happened yet? Has it happened yet? Has it happened yet? We heard reports at 12:30, 1 o'clock about this potential trade, and it wasn't until 4 hours later. Oh yeah, it's happening. Things don't happen fast, folks. They don't necessarily happen quickly. Whole hockey world's waiting on Nikolai Ehlers. It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Speaking of Nikolai Ehlers, I asked General Manager Eric Tulski about Nikolai Ehlers earlier today. I'm going to have that full conversation for you. Canes General Manager Eric Tulski, that full conversation from earlier next.
Hey, it's Adam Gold, and I know the hurricane season came to an end. Another year with a loss to Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals, 2 of the last 3. But it's been a great year, and it's going to be a great summer with all that cap room the Hurricanes have. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, from free agency to trades to the draft. We'll have player interviews, special sit-down with Rod Brindamore that he doesn't even know about yet. He'll do it, don't worry. Just stay tuned to the Canes Corner podcast on YouTube. Search Canes Corner and wherever you get your podcast.
Are you ready for the ultimate entertainment experience? It's all here, only with Spectrum TV Select. Popular apps are included: Disney Plus, Max, Peacock Premium, Paramount Plus, AMC Plus, and more. And live TV for sports, entertainment, and news. Enjoy across your devices no matter when or where you are. Get Spectrum TV Select and start streaming your favorites today. It's all here. Visit spectrum.com/entertainment. Restrictions apply.
If Heineken Silver was a 60-second radio ad, it'd tell you all the stuff you need to know in only 30 seconds to keep things light and refreshing. Seriously, time me. Heineken Silver, a world-class light beer that's surprisingly crisp and refreshing. Made with only premium quality ingredients and just 2.9 grams of carbs and 95 calories. All without compromising on taste. Heineken Silver. Order now at Heineken.com/silver. Must be 21 and older to purchase. Enjoy Heineken responsibly. Whew. 30 seconds. That's it. Done. Peace.
Evan Cohen here. Whether you're locking in your home run picks or riding with your favorite golfers this summer, ESPN Bet is your sportsbook for all the action. Go from checking stats on your favorite teams and players to placing bets in just a few taps. Plus, new customers can get $100 in bonus bets when you make your first $10 wager. Download the ESPN Bet app and sign up with promo code USL to get started today. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. Offer not available in New York.
Give me those sauces, grab the chicken strips, let's dunk them in there. There's nothing like it.
Hey, I'm Joey.
And I'm Josh, and we're team members at our local Chick-fil-A.
And a little thing you'll love about the Chick-fil-A chicken strips
is dipping them in our sauces. My sauce is the barbecue sauce. If you wanted to add sweet, tangy flavors, there's nothing like it.
I love the garden herb ranch sauce, but if you want a little bit more kick in the spicy side, you can mix it with buffalo sauce.
Dipping them in our sauces, it is perfection.
It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. Team members paid for their testimonials.
Joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, it's the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulski. Eric, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on the show this afternoon. By the way, feel free to break any news maybe regarding Nikolai Ehlers if you want to. Feel free to go ahead and do that right now if you want to, Eric.
If I had any news, I'd be happy to share it.
That's totally fair. I know yesterday, Eric, you spoke yesterday about you guys being in on Nikolai Ehlers and you guys had pitched him. Is it just basically just kind of waiting to see what Ehlers is deciding, just basically waiting on his decision?
Yep, that's where we are right now.
All right, that's fair. I think a lot of teams around the NHL are probably anticipating that right now. Again, that's Canes general manager Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Let's go into the big move he made yesterday regarding Keandre Miller. What is it about Miller's skill set that makes him a great fit, not only for Carolina, but also will fully unlock his potential?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really powerful, explosive skater. And the way we ask our defensemen to defend, we want them to apply pressure all the time and get into guys, and he has the explosiveness to close out. And he's big and physical and can apply real pressure when he does that and make it hard on people.
So I remember last week on Friday after the first round of the draft, you talked about how a lot of teams in the NHL weren't looking to make trades for futures, and most teams were looking to, if they were trading players, they would get players in return. When did you identify that Keandre could be a player that you could acquire without having to give up really anybody on your full-time roster?
Yeah, we had talked to the Rangers about it for a couple of weeks. You know, they were definitely looking at the free agent market and wondering if there was somebody out there who they might want to bring in, and then they would need to move some people to clear space to be able to do that.
Eric, I asked you last week on Friday after the first round of the draft about how the new collective bargaining agreement, when it starts next year, will impact the maximum length of contracts. And if that would impact any decisions made by free agents or potentially players that you go after with, current players you can only sign to 8 years is going to go down to 7. And then free agents will go from 7-year terms down to 6-year terms, and how much that impact that could possibly have. How much did that weigh in on making sure when you traded for Keandre Miller that you got that 8th year as part of the sign-and trade? How valuable was that to you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's important, right? The cap's going up a lot, and that 8th year, the cap will be very high, and he will still be in his prime, maybe at the tail end of his prime, but he should still be very effective. Obviously, you're taking some risk when you sign someone that long. There's a lot of things that can go poorly. But if it goes well, I think we'll be in really good shape, and glad we got that extra year at this price.
Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. I know there's a lot of questions and speculation about, well, who's going to play on their offside? You have 4 left-handed defensemen. You have 2 right-handed defensemen. Who are you guys looking at possibly playing on their right side?
Yeah, I mean, it could be any of them. So the coaches will feel out how they want to do. I know Gostis Bear's done it a lot. I know Slavin's done it a little. I believe any of them can do it. It's just a matter of where they see the best fit and how they want to set things up.
Eric, I know you've written in the past about how important it is for NHL teams to carry the puck into the zone as opposed to just an old dump and chase style of method. How does Keandre's skill set add to that, even from the blue line, where he can bring the puck up the ice and help enter zones without, just like I said, chipping the puck into the corner?
Yeah, he's very effective at skating with the puck. He has a powerful stride and good control of it, and he can create space for himself and get himself up the ice with the puck. We also, the way we play, we actually do play a fair amount of dump and chase because we want to play fast. And so a lot of the time the goal is just get the puck into their end as fast as we can and get after them and get on them. And, sometimes the fastest way to get on the attack is to dump it in and get after it.
I know, Eric, when you traded for Mikko Rantanen, I'm sorry, not for Mikko Rantanen, but when Alexander Nikishin was coming over here from Russia, you tweeted out a little emoji of an airplane. So we expect just a simple emoji tweet from you at some point here in the next day or two. I was hoping that we might get that yesterday with Keandre Miller.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to keep it mixing up. I don't want you to know what's coming next time, so we'll see how I handle it.
Always keeping us guessing. Eric Tulski, Canes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Speaking of a player, 8-year contract, Logan Stankoven, a player that you got a deal done that you announced yesterday, 8 years, $6 million a year. What is it about not just the skill set that Logan Stankoven brings, but also just the mentality that fits so well into the Canes culture that you identified him as being a core guy for really the next 9 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, again, the way we want to play, we want to put pressure on people and we want to be really competitive and get into them and make it hard for them. He's not the biggest guy, but he is extremely competitive and he fights for every inch and he makes you work for it.
What do you anticipate as a ceiling possibly for Logan Stankoven? Do you look at him and you say he's 22 years old? By the time he reaches his age 25 season, we expect him to be a consistent 50-point scorer or 25-goal guy. Where do you see as his potential ceiling is with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? So far, I think he's beaten every expectation that's ever been put on him, so it's hard to put a ceiling on someone like that. We'll just have to watch him keep growing and see how far he gets.
Eric, I know going into this offseason, you all had a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with cap space, draft capital, a deep prospect pool, and you obviously dipped into that yesterday. But you still have that flexibility where you can still make moves, whether it's this offseason or even during the season. How set up are you guys for not only making moves right now, but even during the season, if you have a major injury, you got to make a move or you got to make a change, that you are set up to still make these moves and don't really have to stress about, are we going to be pressed against the cap or maybe we're too low on picks or prospects? How valuable is that flexibility for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to be in a position where we're never going to lose out on something because we just couldn't afford it. Right? We have all the money we want. We have all the assets we could need. It's just a question of making sure we find the right fit and finding the players who want to be here and getting after them and getting them in here. Most of the time, the salary cap places limitations on teams. And right now, I'm just fortunate to be in a spot where it's not really limiting. It's just a question of where we can find opportunity to bring players in who can help us.
And an area where you have flexibility, I guess you can say, is even going into next year. I always think about, future moves that this team could make. Pretty much your entire roster, with the exception of Mark Jankowski and Frederick Anderson, you have either under contract or under control as a restricted free agent next season. For you to have that kind of continuity from one year to the next, how much do you expect this team to grow, not only as a unit, obviously individual players getting better, but just the growth potential of this team going forward because of that cohesion?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something we really haven't had in a long time here. I think we always try to be one of the most active teams in the league, and we don't want to miss any chances to make our team better. And so we have had a lot of turnover over the years because of that. I think this is probably the first time we've had this many of our players sort of in place and settled this far in advance.
All right, final thing for you, Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Final thing for you, I know, again, Logan Stankoven signed that 8-year contract extension. You do have a couple guys in their final year of their entry-level contracts, and Jackson Blake as well as Alexander Nikishin. Have the conversations been taking place with their agents and about potential deals and contract extensions for those guys as well?
Yep, we've had an initial conversation with each of them. I don't know yet where any of them are going to end up, but we would love to do them early if we could.
All right, Eric, thanks so much for your time. I know you got to get back to work. It's a busy time for you, and we'll be looking for that the Nikolai Ehlers extension announcement coming up here soon. By the way, feel free. You still have a few minutes if you want to break that news. You're more than welcome to right now, Eric.
If I had news for you, I would share it.
I know you would. Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on making the deal so far, and continued luck this offseason.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group. So, big thanks to Eric Tulski, again, for joining us. That conversation from earlier today. Max, Nikolai Ehlers, is he signed yet? Is he signed anywhere yet?
No, he is not.
Okay, he hasn't signed up. By the way, so it's the free agent frenzy here on 99.9 The Fan. I'm looking forward to, again, presented by John Heister, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Lillington. So, again, the free agent frenzy right here on 99.9 The Fan. The big free agent, by the way, the Carolina Hurricanes haven't signed a free agent yet. The free agent pool has been kind of thin. Now, I was thinking about, Max, about if Nikolai Ehlers does sign with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's the big fish out there. And there's kind of rumors and reports and stuff that are floating around that it's really down to Washington and Carolina, and Nikolai Ehlers is just kind of pondering where he wants to go, which I'm okay with the fact that if Nikolai Ehlers wanted to take a day or day and a half to really sit down and think about what he wants, I'm okay with that because in my eyes, if he does sign with Carolina, that he's fully committed to being here. There's no like buyer's remorse or like, well, they threw me out a big contract early on. Let me go ahead and sign it because if I kind of wait and see what else is out there, they might pull that contract and then I have nothing else out there for me. That's not going to be the case with this. It's going to be, I want to go play for that team. I sat down, thought about it. That is the team I want to play for going forward, and it's them. And I was thinking about how, because like, for example, the Mikko Rantanen trade and everything that went down. Rantanen was kind of caught off guard, I should say, by that move. Because he was traded to Carolina. He didn't sign as a free agent. He was traded here. But if Nikolai Ehlers makes that move, it's because he wants to be here. And I was thinking of that, okay, Nikolai Ehlers is a top 6 winger on this team. And I was kind of thinking about, well, who would play where? Like, if, for example, if Nikolai Ehlers is on a top line with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis, I love that. Absolutely love that. Then you also have, okay, well then, does Taylor Hall play alongside Andrei Svechnikov? Does Andrei Svechnikov play on his right side? Taylor Hall plays up there. And then you have Jordan Stahl, Jordan Martinook, let's say it's Logan Stankoven. Well, then now you're putting Jackson Blake down as a quote-unquote fourth-line guy, which could add some scoring throughout that lineup. Something that we have to keep in mind when it comes to how the Canes are trying to build their team and build their roster. Obviously, they want 4 lines that can contribute offensively. But if you look at the team that just won the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers, their top 3 lines could all score. Now, say what you want about Gadjevich and A.J. Greer on the 4th line and whatever it might be, grit guys that throw their weight around and all that kind of stuff. But the Florida Panthers, they had 3 legit lines that could score. Now, they also had the grittiness, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, like guys that aren't afraid to get under your skin. But you know what those guys also did? They also put up points. They also could lock you down defensively as well. Like, that's the thing about those lines is that, yeah, they had the nastiness and the grittiness, but they also had the skill, the scoring, the defense, and everything that went on with it as well. I think that's something we kind of overlook because we just look at that Florida Panthers team like, oh, they're just a bunch of jerks. Carolina Hurricanes are the only true bunch of jerks, by the way. But we look at them, there's some words I can't say on radio, Max.
Of course. About
how a lot of people would describe the Florida Panthers. I mean, obviously the hockey term out there you probably hear a lot is they're a bunch of rats. Well, guess what? They're rats that can play.
Yeah, they're rats that score 15 goals in a playoff run like Sam Bennett.
13 of them on the road. That's what separates them. Now, I don't know if Nikolai Ehlers, if he does join this team, this is a guy that's been a consistent, roughly around 25 goals, 65-point guy in his career. Like, that's kind of about what he's been. There's obviously some years where he's a little above or a little below, but he's consistently in that range of scoring and producing. And a lot of the advanced numbers in terms of puck possession and those kinds of things, guess what? That fits Carolina Hurricanes hockey to a T. It really does. But in terms of that grittiness and those types of guys that aren't afraid to get under your skin, I still have a question about who that can be. I mean, Andrei Svechnikov is supposed to have that in his game. We did see it a bit in these playoffs, obviously the goal scoring, but it has to be more than just one guy.
Aho can kind of turn on that pest role a bit in the playoffs, and we've seen it too.
Yeah, he can a little bit, but I don't know if that's his forte, I guess you could say.
But he's good. He is good at getting under opponent's skin, especially in the playoffs. And he gets maligned a lot by some of the national analysts and broadcasters too for being like a quote unquote dirty player, which I don't think anyone around here thinks is true. But he does a decent enough job. I mean, it's not his game to be kind of rough and tumble and mess with the other team. He's obviously more of a skilled player, but he does have that aspect of his game as well.
He does. He has a little bit of it, but again, it's not what he's known for doing. But a lot of people, obviously, Ehlers would be a tremendous help for this team because this team does need scoring. If you actually look at this team coming back from last year, there are 3 guys that are 20-goal scorers. 3. Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, that's it. You have 3 guys that are 20-goal scorers. That's it. That's on the team. That's it. Now, I feel like Logan Stankoven can get into that level as a 20-goal guy. Hopefully, Taylor Hall has that little bit of that revitalization in his career that we saw when he got traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, where he can be a 20-plus goal guy in that middle part of your lineup. Now, there's still a major void. Now, defensively, I will say this. With Keandre Miller and Alexander Nikishin, their blue line was a strength and has been a strength for this team for a long time. The blue line is better than what it was last year with Keandre Miller and Alexander Nikishin than the way we saw it end last season with Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov. Like we saw Brent Burns just kind of run out of gas. 40 years old, just didn't have the burst of speed anymore. And Dmitry Orlov, especially when Jalen Chatfield wasn't there, we saw struggles. Now, Alexander Nikishin, a lot of upside, still has a long way to go in terms of his development. Keandre Miller, ton of upside, more of an NHL-ready player at this moment than Nikishin. Nikishin probably long-term probably projects to be better, but nonetheless, a player that is a top 4 defenseman that can play for you right now that still has growth potential within your system. Their defense as a whole is better right now on paper than it was when it finished last season, even before the Chatfield and Sean Walker injuries.
Right.
In my mind, it's better.
Yeah, if you disregard, and you probably should disregard handedness in this regard, and just looking at the core 1 through 6 of the guys that will be on your blue line every night, it's improved. And you're paying Keandre Miller a little bit less per year than you were paying Dmitry Orlov, about around the same cap. It was like a $250,000 difference. And you're getting a player who's younger, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, and probably has still yet to reach the peak of his game. So it's hard to deny that they have improved on the back end.
Yeah, they've gotten better on the back end. But there's still a major void on this team, on this roster. And the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't think are going to solve that void right now, and that's finding another top 6 center, or say a top 2 center on this team. Now, some people will say, well, Aho actually should be a number 2 center. Okay, fine. If Sebastian Aho is the number 2 center in your team, great. That means you got a stud as your quote-unquote number 1 center. That's fine. But you do need someone that could be a better center as your quote-unquote on a second scoring line, or wherever you want to define it, than what they've had in recent years. They need to find that. Now, I would love for the Carolina Hurricanes to go out there and get Tage Thompson. I think there's a lot of from the Buffalo Sabres. I think there are a lot of Canes fans that would love to see that. But I don't see Buffalo just willingly giving that up right now. If you look at what it costs to get Keandre Miller, a first, a second, and a good young prospect, what's it going to cost to go get a center that's locked up for the next 5 years, making just over $7 million a year? What's that going to cost? It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to probably cost picks and players. I remember Eric Tulski, we talked to him a little bit ago, but I remember asking him on Friday last week about trading for players, or I didn't ask him about this, but he did talk about this, but about trades right now this offseason. He said most teams are looking to get players back in return. A player that's been mentioned as part of trades has been Jordan Kyrou from the St. Louis Blues, a forward who's put up really good numbers in his career as a potential trade target. Well, he's still sitting with St. Louis because some teams, or a lot of teams I should say, are more willing to give up a player if they can get a player back in return or multiple players back in return. Very few teams out there are in a situation where, yeah, we'll give you this player if you just give us a bunch of futures and picks. Like, yeah, sure, we'll give you this player for a first next year and a second the year after and maybe a prospect. That's a rare situation because the only one that's really happened has been Carolina with Keandre Miller with the New York Rangers. That's it. So in terms of solving that second center position right now for Carolina, I don't think it happens this offseason. I think it's something that you're going to have to wait until December, January, February to try and figure out, because a lot of these teams with the increased cap number and all that feel like they have a chance to go for it. Heck, we saw Montreal give up a good young player and a couple picks to go get Noah Dobson. That's probably the other move, I should say, that where picks were probably the main part of it. But is Buffalo willing to give up their best player in Tage Thompson for nothing? If I'm a team, even as bad as I am in Buffalo, I'm not giving up my best player for scraps.
And for if you are getting picks from Carolina too, like as we mentioned in the Rangers trade, like they're probably late in whatever round, whether it be first, second, third, whatever. They're probably late picks. So if you're rebuilding, you want higher picks to be drafting, highly touted prospects, and the value of those picks is not as high when you're getting them from Carolina.
For sure. All things you have to take into consideration. What are the prospects that are going to be given back? Do I demand current players on the team? Like, does it cost a high-end player? Like, sure, like you can send Jesperi Kotkaniemi, but he has nowhere near the point production as Tage Thompson. I know for us, for purposes, like, oh yeah, if you trade Kotkaniemi and Jackson Blake in the first-round pick or 2 first-round picks, yeah, Tage Thompson. If you're Buffalo, would you take that? I wouldn't. No, you want to come get my best player, a guy who's been a 40-plus goal scorer a couple times in his career, who's right-handed center, can skate, 27 years old, that has a 5-year contract or 5 years left on his contract. I'm sorry, I'm not giving that up for cheap.
A great contract. Let's $7 million per for a guy who scores 40 goals and is a big player. It's one of the better contracts in the league. So if you're going to pry that away from them, it's probably going to take a haul.
And we also know that the Carolina Hurricanes do not overpay. They do not overpay. 100%, they won't overpay. So to get a guy like Tage Thompson, it's going to cost you a whole heck of a lot. And I bet there are plenty of teams that have called. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Carolina Hurricanes called, hey, what's it going to cost? What's it going to cost? What's it going to cost? To get a guy like Tage Thompson or to go get any other number 2 center, it's not going to happen right now. You're going to have to wait until during the season to make a trade. Because let's be honest, guys who are top 2 centers consistently year in and year out in the NHL just simply don't make it to free agency. They just don't. Number 1 centers for darn sure don't make it, which is what Tage Thompson really is. Now on a good team, okay, you can say he's a number 2, but those guys just aren't readily available and for cheap, for nothing, for free. You can't just expect this stuff to happen overnight. Now, Nikolai Ehlers, if that does happen, will be, in my mind, a great add for this team that continues to try and add more scoring because they need to add more scoring. But to go get one of these top centers, I mean, gosh, just look what it costs for the Florida Panthers to trade for Matthew Tkachuk, who's a winger. Now, Matthew Tkachuk was, obviously 4 years younger than what he is right now and still a developing player who was putting up great numbers, but it took multiple first-round picks. It took a 100-point guy in Jonathan Huberdeau. It took Mackenzie Weegar, a defenseman. It took a lot to go get Matthew Tkachuk away from Calgary a few years ago for a player that you then had to sign to a contract. So that is all things you have to take into consideration when for us as fans about why haven't the Canes done this yet? Well, have you seen any top centers get traded yet? No, you haven't, because the price is so damn high. And a lot of teams feel like, hey, you know what? We're just a piece or 2 away. We're just a piece away from getting into playoffs. Like, if I'm Detroit, I'm not giving up Dylan Larkin for nothing. I'm just not. He's my best player and the number 1 center. I'm not giving him up for nothing. So the trades for the Carolina Hurricanes, if they want to try and get a center, I don't see it happening this offseason. It's going to have to wait until might be January, might be February. That's the position that this Carolina Hurricanes team is in going forward.
We were so close with the Hurdle thing last week, but it never came to pass.
Yeah, I didn't want Tomas Hurdle. No, I didn't want Tomas Hertl. I don't think he fits the Canes system at all, in my eyes. I don't think Tomas Hertl fits the Canes. He's slow. I don't need a center that's slow. Like, he's way slower than Jordan Staal as a skater, and the stats and numbers show that. I did not want Tomas Hertl. I would have taken William Karlsson. I don't want Tomas Hertl and a player that's can't skate very well, and he's only going to get older. He's 31 years old, can't skate super well, and he's only going to get older, and on a contract that's got a very, very restrictive trade clause into it. I would like no thank you on Tomas Hertl. I don't want a 30-goal guy that's a minus player. He's a minus player. If you're a 31-goal scorer and you're a minus player, it means you can't play well at 5-on-5. Yeah, okay, cool. You can put a power play stats, but how many power plays you get in a game, especially in the playoffs? 2? 3? I need you to play well at 5-on-5. I did not want Tomas Hertl. I'm actually glad that didn't happen. 100% glad that didn't happen. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. A player who actually fits well into the Carolina Hurricanes system. Talk about that, really thrived and had a career year this past year. Signed a 4-year contract extension with the Carolina Hurricanes. Eric Robinson, he joined the Adam Gold Show earlier today. We have some of the sound bites from Eric Robinson about why he stuck around in Carolina next.
Listen every afternoon for The Drive with Tim Donnelly.
With free agency coming up, I don't know a lot about economics, but I know this. When there's a little supply, it's going to make the demand high. There's not many centers out there, and the Canes need one, so just be prepared for this. Either you're going to get a player you like, but the cost is going to be too much, or you're going to get a player you don't like, but you'll like the cost. You can't have it all.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 3 to 6 on 99.9 The Fan.
When it comes to restoring cars, Diego's got skills. And with Total Wireless in his corner, the whole world sees them. With the dual camera system on his new iPhone 13, he can take amazing car photos and post them on the fly with super fast 5G, and even turn this hobby into a full-time gig. His claim to fame? Claiming iPhone 13 with 5G on us. Get iPhone 13 with 5G on us when you switch to the Total 5G or 5G Plus Unlimited 3-month plan. Total Wireless, in your corner. For limited time while supplies last. Valid in store. Device taxes and fees may apply. Requires port in and ID verification. Restrictions apply.
Westwood One Sports presents this special tennis update. Taylor Fritz, highest seeded American at Wimbledon. He had quite a win in the first round. Lost the first 2 sets with 2 points from defeat. Pulled out the match that started Monday and finished yesterday, and now playing again against Canada's Gabriel Diallo, who took the first set, but Fritz has won the last 2. American Francis Tiafoe was upset in the second round by Britain's Cameron Norrie, and Tiafoe was asked about 5 of the top 12 seeds having already lost.
The game ain't much deeper. I mean, you got to think not so long ago, Cam made semifinals here. Now I'm playing the second round. Yeah, I mean, the game has incredible depth right now, and if you're not ready to go, you're going to lose. And it seems like guys weren't ready to go, ready to play.
Carlos Alcaraz did win straight sets. Andrei Rublev in 4, Karen Khachanov in 5, American Brandon Nakashima in 4. A women's upset, Jasmine Paolini seeded 4th, lost. With this tennis update, John Stashauer, Westwood One Sports.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Max, have we signed Nikolai Ehlers yet? We signed Nikolai Ehlers yet?
Does not appear so.
Okay, not yet. We're waiting to hear the latest on Nikolai Ehlers as the free agent frenzy continues on 99.9 The Fan, presented by John Heiser, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. A player that actually didn't hit free agency for the Carolina Hurricanes. It was a free agent signing last year for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's Eric Robinson. Eric Robinson last year was actually one of just 2 players for the Carolina Hurricanes that played in every single game, both regular season and postseason. The other one was Brent Burns. But Eric Robinson actually had himself a career year this past season. So Eric Robinson, career high in goals with 14, also a career best in assists with 18, so obviously topping his career best in points with 32. Was a plus 14 last year. Good on the penalty kill, and a guy that was only averaging about just 12 minutes and I think it was 12-16 in ice time. So really not a whole lot of ice time, playing mostly on the fourth line last year, quote unquote fourth line. If there are injuries or if he was playing really well, would occasionally will bump up to the third line and can fit well alongside Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook if necessary. But a guy that plays with great speed, also with great size as well. He's 6'2", 211. He's not a small guy at all. Good on the penalty kill. And a player that fits in super well with the Carolina Hurricanes. And Eric Robinson actually joined the Adam Gold Show early on today, and he talked about how with free agency pending, why it was his goal to get something done here in Carolina.
Well, I think the goal was always to get something done in Carolina. That's, where I wanted to be, where I wanted to stay. Obviously, things went well last year. So I think, the goal was to get something done and, keep pursuing, the dream of winning a cup, in Carolina.
So he signed a 4-year contract at $1.7 million a year. Now, there's some different sites out there, like I think it's AFP Analytics and some others that are out there that will do contract projections for players based off of some different advanced metrics and all these different kinds of things and comparing those players to other players who have already signed deals. And there was a projection out there that Eric Robinson could get a deal for about $2.4 million a year based off what he did this past season. Probably on a 3-year contract, maybe $2.4 million a year. So the fact that he signed a 4-year deal with Carolina to stick around at just 1.7, again, is the Carolina Hurricanes getting great value for a player that can contribute, obviously, depth in the lineup. Hey, a fourth-line guy that can score 14 goals and put up 30 points and can kill penalties. A lot of teams out there covet that. And there's probably a reason why he had his best season. Again, we talked about with Keandre Miller and some of these other players that we see sign with the Carolina Hurricanes. It's about them finding players that fit the system really well and brings out the best in them. And that's something that Eric Robinson discussed with Adam Gold earlier today about what clicked for him in Carolina.
I think the style of play fits. It's easy to say that. But I think really what it was just getting an opportunity. I think, Roddy gave me a good chance to kind of play up and down the lineup and right from day one to be in the lineup and play every game. It helps build your confidence, which is obviously huge in our sport. I think just getting that opportunity from day one and kind of sticking around in the lineup every game, I was just able to build on that throughout the year.
Robinson also discussed about how the season ended. We saw the Carolina Hurricanes get to the Eastern Conference Final. Obviously, him being a big part of that, taking on the Florida Panthers, and he says that he believes that this team is right there with Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you can look back and, I know they've played him a few times. Obviously, last year was my first year, but I think you can look back and take things away from the series and learn from it and realize that, there's adjustments to be made. And yeah, we're right there. I think we're a really good team, and we got a lot of belief in our room that we can, ultimately get to a Stanley Cup and win it. They've obviously set the standard of how to play, but, I think we do it the right way too, that the way it takes to win. So yeah, I think we're right there. And obviously there's a lot of excitement going into next year.
We talked about a little bit ago about the continuity from this Carolina Hurricanes team from last year to this year, but also continuity going forward for the next couple of years. And I think it's valuable. It's something that you can't measure. It's something that's very much intangible about when you have a player like Eric Robinson on your team and having the continuity from one year to the next. When you have that disappointment of losing in a conference final, everyone comes back having felt that. If you add a bunch of different guys to your locker room, you have 7 new guys in your locker room. Well, not everyone felt that feeling of coming up just short. Not everyone felt that. But now this upcoming season, there's only really Keandre Miller that's a new guy into the locker room. Like, that's really it. Everyone else is coming back from last season. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be additional moves or additional guys that are added in, but everyone in that locker room pretty much can look at each other in the eye and say, hey, remember last year when we lost to these guys? Hey, remember how it felt last year in the Eastern Conference Final when we didn't make it? Heck, even Keandre Miller a couple years ago with the New York Rangers was in the Eastern Conference Final and lost to the Florida Panthers. So he knows it just as much as those guys do. But they having felt that collectively as a group, I think can continue to add motivation to the team. And they understand, okay, guys, we can look each other in the eye and say, hey, you know what? What you're doing right now isn't going to work for us come April, May, and June. That's something that they can hold each other accountable. Sometimes if you have a lot of roster turnover, not everyone has that same shared collective feeling. I think that's something that's very valuable for this team moving forward. And Robinson's very much a big part of that. And even if you look at some of the advanced numbers, getting back more specifically to Eric Robinson about the scoring chances generated, like, over a 60-minute period or like for 60 minutes on the ice and goal scoring and expected goals and things along those lines, there is up there with some of the top 50 guys in the entire league. Carolina is a perfect fit for him. Carolina is absolutely a perfect fit for what Eric Robinson does. And something that's not understated as well, or shouldn't be understated, I should say, Eric Robinson, the newer father, and he was asked about this, remember, by Ryan Hinkle of the Hockey News at his exit interview about a month or so ago. Eric Robinson, when he was talking about a potential contract extension with the Carolina Hurricanes, or just what he was looking for in his next contract, mentioned about wanting term because being a new father, having a family now, he wanted to have that security. So having term on his contract was very much an important thing for him. And him sticking around here in Carolina for probably, again, taking a little bit less money than what he could have gotten on the open market, but he wanted that extra year on his deal, and having that security is a big thing. And the fact that he wanted to stay here in Carolina, I think is a good thing, that they, again, continue to cultivate the players that you want to have grow within your system and, again, reach their max potential. And if it's with your team, the better. I'm excited to see what Eric Robinson can do this upcoming season for the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, having another year in the Kane system, another year together skating with the same guys. You only continue to get more comfortable, but you also have the accountability factor when pretty much everyone's back. Hey, guys, remember last year? We worked extremely hard. It wasn't good enough. Now we got to push each other even further. Should be a good time this upcoming season for Eric Robinson in terms of what he can bring to the Carolina Hurricanes. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Max, has Nikolai Ehlers signed yet?
Nope.
Okay. Hasn't signed yet. By the way, feel free to subscribe to us on 99.9 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe there. By the way, everyone that's in the comment section leaving thoughts with the Carolina Hurricanes and about Nikolai Ehlers and everything else going on in the sports world. We want you part of that community. So you might be on your car, driving home, whatever it might be, but, pull up YouTube, 99.9 The Fan, subscribe there. We put videos and clips from the show, and we want you guys to leave comments as well, including, I don't know, this might be the source, Max. Boris Chang in our YouTube live chat said, the guy who cuts my grass says Connor McDavid is coming to Carolina, so you can bank on it. Source. There you go.
Those are the kind of connections you need for the breaking news.
Hey, you know what? Again, this is Boris Chang saying this in our YouTube chat. If McDavid comes to Carolina,
credit him.
I need to find whoever cuts your grass and bring them in studio. I'd be like, all right, what are the Powerball numbers and what else is happening in the sports world for the future going forward? Dennis Cox here sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. On the other side, we have the starting five coming up, including what could potentially be for the Carolina Hurricanes in terms of, we're going to see some of these guys in the Olympics. We saw guys in the Four Nations, but it's official. NHL guys are going to be playing in the Olympics. But before that, Dennis Cox here with my friends over at Loan Pronto. Folks, you maxed out on credit cards. Maybe you're struggling with high interest debt. You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a massive turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Here's the thing, folks. Your home equity, it's yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Call now to start the conversation. 919-381-1760. LoanPronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-171 on approved credit. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Starting five coming up here on 99.9 The Fan, including our conversation in full with Canes general manager Eric Tulski. You'll hear that and more on the starting five next.
Canes fans, your team will be turned upside down.
I said upside down, you're turning me. You're giving love instinctively. Round and round, you're turning me.
Listen all week for our coverage of the Canes free agent frenzy. Instant reaction to all the Canes additions and moves, and the latest signings from across the NHL. It's the Canes free agent frenzy on 99.9 The Fan. Driven by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Lillington. Get off your keister and get to Heister.
Welcome to Take 5 Oil Change.
Hey, how long will this take?
Just 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Get out. That's super fast. Super fast like a F1 pit stop.
Sir.
Huh?
We're all done. I even topped off your fluid and checked your tires.
But I was so close to the finish line.
Get in and out fast with Take 5, the stay-in-your-car 10-minute oil change. And check out F1 the movie starring Brad Pitt only in theaters June 27th. Rated PG-13.
Give me a mountain with lots to do. Give me something simple and true. All I need is sunshine and a cool, refreshing Mountain Dew. Yes, so give me my good friends. Give me that dew.
Grab some ice-cold Mountain Dew today.
Mountain!
Join us at Cocoa Booth Amphitheater this 4th of July. Enjoy patriotic music, kids' activities, and fireworks, all with free general admission.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This hour of the Triangle Sports Leader is powered by Richie Law Firm, injury lawyers. Richie Law is on top of it. Go to RichieLaw.com.
Get in the hole!
That's RichieLaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm WRAL meteorologist Mike Mays. We still have a few showers and thunderstorms that roll through this afternoon. Overnight, partly to mostly cloudy. Some fog possible by daybreak, the low 71. After some morning clouds Thursday, it's partly cloudy and hot in the afternoon, the high 92.
Weather update brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 5 o'clock check of your money at the closing bell. Dow Jones down 10 points to 44,484.
It's 5 o'clock. Time to serve up the biggest sports stories of the day. Here comes your starting five.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Don't worry, folks. Carolina Hurricanes fans, we're keeping a close eye on this whole potential Nikolai Ehlers thing. Don't worry. If breaking news happens, trust me, we'll have that for you. By the way, coming up here in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to have a full replay of our conversation from earlier with Eric Tulski, the Carolina Hurricanes general manager. So, Max Gorin producing the show today. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go and get the starting five underway with number 5.
Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think just the speed. I think it's going to be so much fun being on the other side and being able to add to that speed and getting up and down the rush and not getting hemmed in our D zone. So I think it'll be fun.
That's Keandre Miller, who spoke to the media earlier today. Keandre Miller, the newest Carolina Hurricane, the defenseman coming over from the New York Rangers. That was him talking about what he won't miss playing about the Carolina Hurricanes, because playing against the Canes is it's just rough business, to say the least, if you're an opposing team. It's not fun, but being on the other side of it and a player that has the skill set that Keandre Miller brings really does add a lot to, I think, what the Carolina Hurricanes are capable of doing, and I think can also allow him to reach his full potential. And speaking of that, Keandre Miller, again, spoke to the media earlier today and actually discussed what he's excited about joining when it comes to Carolina and why the speed at which Carolina skates fits him so well.
I mean, I think we've always had great battles in New York, at least when I was on the other side, playing against Carolina. They have such a fast team. They get up and down the ice in a fast motion, and they do everything as a team. It's a fun group to watch, and they've had a lot of success recently. So I'm excited to join that style of game, and they have a great team over there. So I'm excited.
So the Carolina Hurricanes have, among their top 6 defensemen, 4 guys that are left-handed, 2 guys that are right-handed. Now, traditionally what the Carolina Hurricanes like to do is have a left-handed defenseman paired with a right-handed defenseman. That way, generally, you're playing on what they call your natural side. If you're a left-handed player, you play on the left side as a D pairing. If you're a right-handed player, you play on the right side. There's some advantages that come with that. It's more comfortable type thing. But because you have 4 left-handed guys, it means one guy's got to play that's left-handed on his offside, on the right side. And Keandre Miller said he's comfortable if he ends up being on the right side.
I think in the game of hockey, I think everything kind of happens so quick that you get stuck sometimes on the right side that, I don't know, you just have to bear with it and play your shift. I don't know, it happens so quick, like I said. I've played right, I've played left. Pretty comfortable with both. In the offensive zone, I think obviously it's a little bit easier to pick up pucks and being on that right side and having your stick to the middle of the ice to get shots through the net. I think that's going to be a fun challenge for me. Something a little bit different, but I'm excited for it. So
one thing that we got to keep in mind when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes in terms of how they like to match their defensemen together, if you have a player that has an offensive tendency, I guess you can say, for example, like Shane Gostisbehere, a player that has an offensive tendency like a Keandre Miller, you want to make sure that you pair them with somebody who has more of that, all right, protect things first. For example, Brent Burns had more of an offensive tendency and offensive mind as a player. Jacob Slevin, the ultimate defensive defenseman in the NHL. So in my eyes, to me, Keandre Miller and Jacob Slavin would probably make a good pair in that sense. And it might make sense for Keandre Miller to stay on his left side and let Jacob Slavin play on the right. Alexander Nikishin might have a little bit more of that offensive mindset in terms of bringing the puck up and generating offense. Him playing alongside Jalen Chatfield makes a lot of sense. So Nikishin as a lefty can play with Chatfield as a righty, and we saw Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker as a defensive pair last year together a lot. To me, that might be on paper, the best way to start things off for this Carolina Hurricanes team going forward on defense. All right, that's number 5. Let's go ahead and jump to number 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, all together.
Burns is shot out in front. Oh, scores on the power play. Carolina has even this game at 1. A huge power play goal right when they needed it.
So this offseason, in terms of free agency and the NHL as a whole, as our free agent frenzy continues here on 99.9 The Fan, presented by John Heister, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Lillington. As our free agent frenzy continues, there really hasn't been a whole lot going on today. There really hasn't been. This free agency class, or this pool, however you want to describe it, really wasn't deep to begin with. A lot of the guys that were projected to be free agents ended up re-signing with their own teams.
Well, hold on now, Dennis. We have semi-breaking news.
What? What do you mean semi? There's no semi. There is or there isn't. Is this Nikolai Ehlers news?
Unfortunately, it's not Nikolai Ehlers news.
Oh, okay.
Pius Suter, second-line center target. Some people have had for the Hurricanes. Joined the St. Louis Blues. 2 years, $4 million per AAV. So,
okay.
Center target off the board for the Hurricanes. Pius Suter going to the Blues.
Pius Suter, in my eyes, is at best a third center. I mean, he's a guy that, he had like this good season this past year with Vancouver, but really he's a number 3 center, and the Canes already have those guys.
He didn't excite me much, but he was someone that's been kind of in that conversation. He's kind of in that tier of free agents too, that is kind of like Jack Roslovic, those type of guys. But there's another one off the board. You were just saying hasn't been much movement. There you go. There's a fresh deal for you.
There you go. But it also just goes to show you like what this free agent class really was. In terms of centers, it was like him and Mikael Granlund, which I actually thought Mikael Granlund would have been good with Carolina. I thought he actually probably could be a number 2 center, but he signed with Anaheim at 3 years at $7 million a year. I'm like, it's probably a little too rich for a player that's 34 years old. But the free agency class for Mopar, like, that's the biggest signing of the day was Pius Suter going to St. Louis. Again, the NHL free agency this offseason hasn't really been a whole lot. One of the big names that actually did get to the actual free agency in the open market was Brock Besser with Vancouver, and he ended up re-signing with Vancouver, kind of swerved everybody. But Brad Marchand never made it to market. Mitch Marner never made it to market. Aaron Ekblad never made it to market. Brock Besser ended up eventually re-signing. Patrick Kane went back to Detroit. Again, a lot of these guys ended up sticking around. There really hasn't been a whole lot of movement in terms of free agency. The Canes, they signed Mike Riley, who's be a number 7 defenseman for the Canes this season. That's it. Like, that's all they've actually really have signed in terms of free agents this offseason. I know they did trade for Caden Primo, who is a goaltender that's going to probably be in the American Hockey League this year. They signed him to a 1-year deal. Okay. That's really what this team has done right now outside of trading for Keandre Miller. There really hasn't been a lot of big moves since the start of free agency, which was noon yesterday. Again, the biggest ones came earlier on Monday with Mitch Marner going to Vegas from Toronto as part of a sign and trade. And again, Ekblad, Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, those guys all staying in Florida. There's a lot that happened before, but in terms of the actual free agency taking place, not really a whole lot going on. All right, that's number 4 in the starting 5. Let's get to number 3 real quick.
With the 4th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Con Knipple from Duke University.
So that was a big move, obviously, for the Charlotte Hornets. But Charlotte Hornets actually ended up getting guard Spencer Dinwiddie on a 1-year deal, according to Shams Charania. But the NBA free agency has actually been going on for the last few days, and we haven't really had a chance to really talk about it. Like, a couple of the big moves that have taken place in the NBA, for example, is Damian Lillard, who's recovering from an Achilles tear, probably not going to play this season, was waived by the Milwaukee Bucks. We've also seen, for example, Miles Turner going from the Indiana Pacers to the Milwaukee Bucks. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff that's going on at the NBA. It's a lot to keep track of, but nonetheless, it's like the Milwaukee Bucks are trading Pat Connaughton and a couple of their own picks to the Charlotte Hornets as well. So Hornets are gathering some like future second round picks in like 6-7 years from now.
Their GM Jeff Peterson he's been great at like working within the margins to acquire assets, get second round picks. I like their offseason so far. They've loaded up on a lot of guards, so I think maybe another move could be coming to maybe send some of them out and get another front court player. But hopefully they're finally making some strides for some change and getting some success in Charlotte.
I will say, though, with its new ownership in Charlotte, we'll see how long that's going to take for them to actually get around to being a good franchise. I mean, wasn't that long ago with James Borrega that they were a team competing for a playoff spot and actually had a winning season, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, let's just fire this guy. And they've stunk since. How'd that work out for you? Oh, wait, it didn't. Oh, also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander yesterday signed a Supermax contract, 4 years, $285 million. A 4-year, $285 million contract extension.
And there were people saying that he took less to help the team.
Yeah.
NBA money's crazy.
I know. It's going to take them through the 2030-2031 season. I believe in the last year of that contract, Max, he's going to make $82 million. So we're talking literally $1 million a game. Yeah. That's the largest annual salary for a player in NBA history, by the way. So we didn't get a chance to talk about that yesterday because NHL free agency is going on. Speaking of the NHL, let's get to number 2.
Just the two of us. Doesn't have fresh legs with him. And he'll drop it back. Marner to work. He's in. Marner! Mitch Marner in overtime!
Mitch Marner. Not a Carolina Hurricane. But it is official now. It is officially announced today. It was always to be expected that this was going to happen, but it's official that the NHL, the NHL Players Association, the International Olympic Committee, as well as the IIHF, which is the governing body overseeing hockey internationally, it's officially signed upon. NHL players will compete in the 2026 Olympic Games. And also, I believe that they're set to also participate in 2030 as well in the Olympics. To me, Olympic hockey, just international hockey in general, is just so phenomenal to watch, but I love watching Olympic hockey, especially when it's best on best. I think that's what made the Four Nations so great this past February. There's a little bit of a lull with the Super Bowl and all that going on, and it's just the best players in the world playing against each other in the Four Nations, and the games were electric. Now you're going to see the best NHL players again competing in the Olympics this upcoming season. We definitely know Sebastian Aho is part of Team Finland already. That's been announced, but Jacob Slavin should 100% be part of Team USA.
Could be like 5, maybe even like 6 Hurricanes at the Olympics.
There might be a few. Obviously, there are going to be quite a few. Frederick Anderson should be competing for Denmark. I think that's already actually maybe been announced already. But Seth Jarvis should be part of Team Canada. Andrei Svechnikov, and actually I don't know if Russia's allowed to compete. Never mind. I take that back. Russia probably isn't allowed to compete, so never mind. Andrei Svechnikov, congrats. You have a vacation coming in February. But you're going to see a lot of these guys participating in the Olympics that play for the Carolina Hurricanes, which is a super cool thing to do. But then that's like, we knew it was happening, but it just officially became official. Again, I really hope to see the Carolina Hurricanes represented well Go Team USA, of course. And hopefully, obviously, no one gets hurt. But Olympic ice hockey is just absolutely electric. It is so fun to watch. All right, that's number 2. Let's go ahead and get to number 1.
Go one!
Earlier today, here's the conversation in full. Myself and Canes general manager, Eric Tulski. Joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, it's the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulski. Eric, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on the show this afternoon. By the way, feel free to break any news maybe regarding Nikolai Ehlers if you want to. Feel free to go ahead and do that right now if you want to, Eric.
If I had any news, I'd be happy to share it.
That's totally fair. I know yesterday, Eric, you spoke yesterday about you guys being in on Nikolai Ehlers, and you guys had pitched him. Is it just basically just kind of waiting to see what Ehlers is deciding, just basically waiting on his decision?
Yep, that's where we are right now.
All right, that's fair. I think a lot of teams around the NHL are probably anticipating that right now. Again, that's Canes general manager Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Let's go into the big move he made yesterday regarding Keandre Miller. What is it about Miller's skill set that makes him a great fit, not only for Carolina, but also will fully unlock his potential?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really powerful, explosive skater. And the way we ask our defensemen to defend, we want them to apply pressure all the time and get into guys. And he has the explosiveness to close out. And he's big and physical and can apply real pressure when he does that and make it hard on people.
So I remember last week on Friday after the first round of the draft, you talked about how a lot of teams in the NHL weren't looking to make trades for futures, and most teams were looking to, if they were trading players, they would get players in return. When did you identify that Keandre could be a player that you could acquire without having to give up really anybody on your full-time roster?
Yeah, we had talked to the Rangers about it for a couple of weeks. You know, they were definitely looking at the free agent market and wondering if there was somebody out there who they might want to bring in, and then they would need to move some people to clear space to be able to do that.
Eric, I asked you last week on Friday after the first round of the draft about how the new collective bargaining agreement, when it starts next year, will impact the maximum length of contracts. And if that would impact any decisions made by free agents or potentially players that you go after with, you know, current players you can only sign to 8 years is going to go down to 7. And then free agents will go from 7-year terms down to 6-year terms, and how much that impact that could possibly have. How much did that weigh in on making sure when you traded for Keandre Miller that you got that 8th year as part of the sign and trade? How valuable was that to you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's important, right? The cap's going up a lot, and that 8th year, the cap will be very high, and he will still be in his prime, you know, maybe at the tail end of his prime, but he should still be very effective. Obviously, you're taking some risk when you sign someone that long. There's a lot of things that can go poorly, but if it goes well, I think we'll be in really good shape, and glad we got that extra year at this price.
Eric Tulski, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. I know there's a lot of questions and speculation about, well, who's going to play on their offside? You have 4 left-handed defensemen. You have 2 right-handed defensemen. Who are you guys looking at possibly playing on their right side?
Yeah, I mean, it could be any of them. So the coaches will feel out how they want to do. I know Gostis Bear's done it a lot. I know Slavin's done it a little. I believe any of them can do it. It's just a matter of where they see the best fit and how they want to set things up.
Eric, I know you've written in the past about how important it is for NHL teams to carry the puck into the zone as opposed to just an old dump and chase style of method. How does Keandre's skill set add to that, even from the blue line, where he can bring the puck up the ice and help enter zones without, you know, just like I said, chipping the puck into the corner?
Yeah, he's very effective at skating with the puck. He has a powerful stride and good control of it, and he can create space for himself and get himself up the ice with the puck. You know, we also, the way we play, we actually do play a fair amount of dump and chase because we want to play fast. And so a lot of the time the goal is just get the puck into their end as fast as we can and get after them and get on them. And, you know, sometimes the fastest way to get on the attack is to dump it in and get after it.
I know, Eric, when you traded for Mikko Rantanen, I'm sorry, not for Mikko Rantanen, but when Alexander Nikishin was coming over here from Russia, you tweeted out a little emoji of an airplane. So we expect like just a simple emoji tweet from you at some point here in the next day or two. I was hoping that we might get that yesterday with Keandre Miller.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to keep it mixing up. I don't want you to know what's coming next time, so we'll see how I handle it.
Always keeping us guessing. Eric Tulski, Canes general manager, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Speaking of a player, 8-year contract, Logan Stankoven, a player that you got a deal done that you announced yesterday, 8 years, $6 million a year. What is it about not just the skill set that Logan Stankoven brings, but also just the mentality that fits so well into the Canes culture that you identified him as being a core guy for really the next 9 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, again, the way we want to play, we want to put pressure on people, and we want to be really competitive and get into them and make it hard for them. He's not the biggest guy, but he is extremely competitive, and he fights for every inch, and he makes you work for it.
What do you anticipate as a ceiling possibly for Logan Stankoven? Do you look at him and you say he's 22 years old? By the time he reaches his age 25 season, we expect him to be a consistent 50-point scorer or 25-goal guy. Where do you see as his potential ceiling is with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? So far, I think he's beaten every expectation that's ever been put on him, so it's hard to put a ceiling on someone like that. We'll just have to watch him keep growing and see how far he gets.
Eric, I know going into this offseason, you all had a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with cap space, draft capital, a deep prospect pool, and you obviously dipped into that yesterday. But you still have that flexibility where you can still make moves, whether it's this offseason or even during the season. How set up are you guys for not only making moves right now, but even during the season, if you have a major injury, you got to make a move or you got to make a change, that you are set up to still make these moves and don't really have to stress about, are we going to be pressed against the cap, or maybe we're too low on picks or prospects? How valuable is that flexibility for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to be in a position where we're never going to lose out on something because we just couldn't afford it. Right? We have all the money we want. We have all the assets we could need. It's just a question of making sure we find the right fit and finding the players who want to be here and getting after them and getting them in here. Most of the time, the salary cap places limitations on teams. And right now, I'm just fortunate to be in a spot where it's not really limiting. It's just a question of where we can find opportunity to bring players in who can help us.
And an area where you have flexibility, I guess you can say, is even going into next year. I always think about, future moves that this team could make. Pretty much your entire roster, with the exception of Mark Jankowski and Frederick Anderson, you have either under contract or under control as a restricted free agent next season. For you to have that kind of continuity from one year to the next, how much do you expect this team to grow, not only as a unit, obviously individual players getting better, but just the growth potential of this team going forward because of that cohesion?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something we really haven't had in a long time here. I think we always try to be one of the most active teams in the league, and we don't want to miss any chances to make our team better. And so we have had a lot of turnover over the years because of that. I think this is probably the first time we've had this many of our players sort of in place and settled this far in advance.
All right, final thing for you, Eric Tulski joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Final thing for you, I know, again, Logan Stankoven signed that 8-year contract extension. You do have a couple guys in their final year of their entry-level contracts, and Jackson Blake as well as Alexander Nikishin. Have the conversations been taking place with their agents and about potential deals and contract extensions for those guys as well?
Yep, we've had an initial conversation with each of them. I don't know yet where any of them are going to end up, but we would love to do them early if we could.
All right, Eric, thanks so much for your time. I know you got to get back to work. It's a busy time for you, and we'll be looking for that the Nikolai Ehlers extension announcement coming up here soon. By the way, feel free. You still have a few minutes if you want to break that news. You're more than welcome to right now, Eric.
If I had news for you, I would share it.
I know you would. Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on making the deal so far, and continued luck this offseason.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So big thanks to General Manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulski. That was a conversation from earlier today. The questions about Nikolai Ehlers still relevant because we haven't heard anything about Nikolai Ehlers yet. Not yet, but don't worry, folks. We're going to keep you updated. It's interesting. You know what? We need 2 contestants for the numbers game. We're going to do that right now because yesterday during the numbers game, Max, is when we heard about the official news of Keandre Miller coming to the Carolina Hurricanes. So we need actually 2 numbers game contestants because we need to play the numbers game. If history repeats itself, then we'll get contestants, that will come join the show, and then we'll get news about Nikolai Ehlers. So call 919-860-5326 for your chance to compete in the numbers game and win a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World at Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park. That's on Wednesday, July 16th. So we're talking 2 weeks from now here, folks. But again, 919-860-5326 for your chance to compete in the numbers game. And again, win a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory. That's at Coastal Credit Union Music Park on July 16th. We need 2 contestants to compete in the numbers game. Win the numbers game, you win the tickets. Numbers game next.
The Adam Gold Show.
Look, I know Carolina's got a lot of money to spend, about $29 million in cap room, but I want them to spend it on the right player. Mitch Marner is a great player, a world-class point producer, but he's not a center. He doesn't score in the playoffs, and he doesn't play physical. Add him, but you better add something else up front, preferably in the middle. Otherwise, it won't work.
The Adam Gold Show, weekdays starting at noon on 99.9 The Fan.
Western One Sports presents this special tennis update. Day 3 at Wimbledon, not quite as eventful as the first 2, but a couple more upsets. Frances Tiafoe lost to England's Cameron Norrie. Although Norrie was a Wimbledon semifinalist in 2022, Tiafoe has still never gotten past the 4th round. Jasmine Paolini's loss means 4 of the top 5 seeds in the women's singles are gone. The only one left, the top seed, Aryna Sabalenka. She won today, so did Aussie Open champ Madison Keys, fellow American Amanda Anisimova, 4-time Grand Slam winner Naomi Osaka, and England's Emma Raducanu, who beat 2023 Wimbledon champ Marketa Vandrousova. England's Ali Tarvett lost to Carlos Alcaraz, but Tarvett actually gave Alcaraz some trouble, surprising since Tarvett's still a student at UC San Diego. This is his first pro tournament. Last match of the day going on now. Taylor Fritz and Gabriel Diallo just underway in the 5th set. John Stashower, Westwood One Sports.
DQ presents How to Make Your Summer Take Flight. Just head into DQ for a new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat. Treat your inner hero to an epic mix of sugar cookie dough, sprinkles, and cake batter flavor. Blend it all with legendary DQ soft serve, and it's enough to tempt Superman himself. Fly into DQ for our new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat before it's gone. And don't miss Superman. Only in theaters July 11th. DQ. Happy tastes good. Only at participating locations.
Hi, welcome to IKEA.
This is my college campus.
Correct, but I see you're on IKEA.com ordering some college items.
My daughter's room is pretty bare. We need a lamp, some comfy pillows, her favorite stuffy.
Dad! With pickup options, we've got what you need to conveniently order IKEA. Literally anywhere.
Sweet, more time for gaming.
And studying. Wait, where are you going now?
Have to show the Ultimate Frisbee team how easy it is to order from IKEA. Get IKEA whenever, wherever, however you want. Choose from thousands of pickup locations, affordable delivery options, and more.
Find what you love, love what you find. At Total Wine & More, there's so much waiting for you. All kinds of beers and thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. It's the numbers game, folks. During the numbers game yesterday, by the way, we had some big-time Canes news that happened. Maybe we'll have that here as well. But until then, we have 2 contestants on the line. We have Matt and Carrie and Kevin and Raleigh are our contestants today. Our prize, a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park on July 16th. Again, that's 2 weeks from today. but we need to decide who goes first in the numbers game. I'm going to ask both Matt and Kevin a question. Max is going to decide his favorite answer. That person will go first. If we have a tie in the numbers game, the contestant that goes first will be declared the winner in that regard. But we'll go with Matt and Carrie. I'm going to ask you a simple question. We have a 4th of July holiday weekend coming up. If you got the grill going, what's the number one thing that's got to be on the grill at a cookout for you?
Hot dogs.
Simple answer. Max, any questions?
No, I like the simplicity.
Okay, very simple. All right, Matt, stay on the line. Let's get to Kevin in Raleigh. Kevin, same question to you. 4th of July weekend or really any holiday weekend, you got a cookout going. What's the number one thing you got on the grill?
We got to go with bratwurst. Bring a little spice, Italian sausage bratwurst.
Okay. Max, any questions?
No.
Okay, Max, it's up to you. Decide. Hot dogs, bratwurst, up to you, sir.
I liked the very matter of fact Matt firing off the hip with the hot dog, so I'll go with Matt.
It's hard to go wrong with
It's
the
a
hot
classic.
dog.
It's a classic.
It's hard to go wrong with the hot dog. You have a hot dog eating contest on 4th of July as well.
Nothing against the bratwurst, too. A great answer as well. But I love how Ray, he was just like, boom.
By the way, third straight day we've been asking that question. We've had bratwurst every single time. Someone has said bratwurst every single time. By the way, like a bratwurst or an Italian sausage with peppers and onions, a little bit of mustard on a hoagie. Oh, now we're talking. That sounds delicious. I actually had hot dogs for lunch today, too. So you know what? Both these guys, great answers. So, Kevin, go ahead and stay on the line. Let's get to Matt and Carrie. Matt, you're going to be up first. Matt, are you there?
Yes.
All right, Matt. 4 categories for which to choose from for your numbers game. We have NFL, current players who've only played on one team. So, again, current active players in the NFL but have only played for one team so far. We have NFL, players born in Washington State. We also have NBA, Triangle area draft picks since 2010. So these are players who have come from the Triangle, have been drafted into the NBA since 2010. And NHL Hurricanes throughout history.
NBA, Triangle area.
Okay, so these are NBA, Triangle area draft picks since 2010. Again, these are players who played for a Triangle team and have been drafted in the NBA since 2010. Now, they may not be with the team that drafted them. We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to give you the name of a player, and I'm going to give you the team. You got to give us the jersey number, okay? We're not looking for their college number. Again, this is what their NBA number. I'll give you the name of the player and the team. You give us the jersey number. 30 seconds on the clock. Try and get all 5 if you can. Get as many as you can. You do get one pass. You do get one pass, Matt. Any questions?
Got it.
All right, perfect.
Nope.
Your time starts when you hear the horn. Paolo Banchero, Orlando Magic.
1.
Incorrect. Cole Anthony, Orlando Magic.
3.
Incorrect. Paolo Banchero, Orlando Magic.
5.
Correct. Cole Anthony, Orlando Magic.
7.
Incorrect. Kobe White, Chicago Bulls.
3.
Incorrect. Cole Anthony, Orlando Magic.
11.
Incorrect. Kobe White, Chicago Bulls.
Jesus, I suck.
Hey, you got one. Right. Hey, that puts you in the lead in the clubhouse, Matt. Let's not downplay yourself.
One is good a lot of days.
Hey, one can be good. We did have a 5 for 5 earlier this week, though. Not saying anything. Paolo Banchero, you did get correct. He wears number 5. Cole Anthony for the Orlando Magic wears number 50. Kobe White, Chicago Bulls, wore number 0. All right, so you got one. Stay on the line because that one has to be beaten by Kevin in Raleigh. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
You never know.
All right, Kevin, you got to beat one. You got to beat one. One for a tie doesn't do you any good. You got to get at least 2. Here are the categories you have left to choose from. You have NFL current players who have only played for one team, NFL players born in Washington State, and NHL Hurricanes only.
I'll go NFL players currently only played for one team.
Okay, so again, NFL players currently in the NFL only have played for one team. Same thing, 30 seconds on the clock. I'll give you the name of the player and the team. You give us the jersey number. You do get one pass. Try and get all 5 if you can, but you have to beat one. Kevin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, your time starts when you hear the horn. Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings.
18.
Correct. Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys.
9.
Incorrect. Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs.
87.
Correct. TJ Watt, Pittsburgh Steelers.
99.
Incorrect. Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys.
15.
Incorrect. TJ Watt, Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, well, you got the two that you needed, so you did get the wing. You got Justin Jefferson, 18. You got Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs, with 87. Dak Prescott for the Cowboys wears number 4. Tony, you said number 9 initially. Tony Romo wore number 9.
Yeah.
TJ Watt, you should have just stopped when you said 90. He wears number 90. So you could have just stopped right there with him. But congratulations, Kevin. You are a winner of the numbers game. You win a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park on Wednesday, July 16th. That's in 2 weeks from now. Kevin, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Any big 4th of July plans?
Playing in a golf tournament with my son Friday morning.
Oh, there you go. You're talking 9, talking 18 holes? What are we talking? We got a cart? You walking?
18 holes.
Okay.
18 holes.
All right, well, I hope the weather holds up for you.
Yeah, I hope the weather holds up. And it's a team thing, so there's 2 others playing.
Nice. Well, I guess I got to say hit them straight. Hit them straight.
That's right.
Kevin, stay on the line. Max will get some information for you. But congratulations. Enjoy the holiday weekend and enjoy the bratwurst off the grill after you play a round of golf on Friday, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. You do the same.
Oh, thank you. I will. Trust me. I'm going to grill out this weekend. Grilling out this weekend at some point. It's going to have to happen. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Taking a look here real quick. So yesterday, we had news about the Carolina Hurricanes officially came out while we were playing the numbers game regarding Nikolai Ehlers. I'm sorry, but regarding Keandre Miller. That news came out yesterday while we were playing the numbers game. So now as I'm refreshed trying to figure out everything going on with Nikolai Ehlers, he hasn't signed yet. Nikolai Ehlers has yet to sign with anybody. Now, I don't know if he's back home in Denmark, which is like 6 hours ahead of us, I think, in time. In terms of time zone, I think Denmark is 6 hours ahead of us. So it's almost Thursday over there. I don't know if he's back home in Denmark. Maybe he's got his place in Winnipeg because he's played with the Jets for so many years. Maybe he's there. I don't know where he is. But, I mean, is he getting the "you up" text from GMs right now? Hey, man, you up? Just want to see what you're up to. Is he getting the "you up" right now? Nikolai Ehlers, if you're out there in Denmark, I mean, it's almost midnight out there. But we have not seen anything yet officially regarding Nikolai Ehlers. Have not seen that yet. So that's the big news. Hopefully, we'll hear something regarding Nikolai Ehlers before the show ends at 6 o'clock today. But stay locked in. If something happens, you know what? Nikolai Ehlers, the news might not happen until tomorrow regarding Nikolai Ehlers. That's something we're going to have to just wait and see. But we're going to have all the information for you here on The Fan tomorrow as part of our free agent frenzy here on 99.9 The Fan, presented by John Heiser Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Lillington. Now, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, there's a little bit of a misconception when it comes sometimes to trades. We're so quick to go, this team won, that team lost, or this team overpaid, this team lost. We have to declare a winner on a trade as soon as it happens. I think we lose sight of the fact that more than one thing can be true, and that applies to the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll have that conversation next.
Hey, Carolina Panthers fans, it's Dennis Cox from 99.9 The Fan. We're in the offseason, but it doesn't mean me and my co-host, WREL TV's Chris Lee, take a break from our podcast, Panthers Playbook. In every episode, we'll keep you up to date on Panthers news as training camp approaches, insights on the rookies, the free agents, and the surprises, plus all the insider info on the upcoming season. Follow and subscribe to Panthers Playbook wherever you discover your favorite podcasts or watch on YouTube.
breaking news, and this one is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about new customers at Bet365 because they get $150 in bonus bets when they bet $5, win or lose. And even better, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, and player props.
There you have it. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in North Carolina. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. T&Cs apply. Available in app only.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
You'll be one smart cookie when you try Bluebell Cookie Cake Ice Cream. A sweet cream ice cream loaded with chocolate chip cookie cake pieces and swirls of chocolate and vanilla icing. This cookie cake ice cream really takes the cake.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at your neighborhood Food Lion.
It's bow time. Something new just dropped at Bojangles. Take the bold taste of a crispy golden chicken supreme that's been seasoned to perfection, then add dill pickles, Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, and a toasted bun that's great on the go. What do you get? You get a Bo's Bird Dog. In fact, you can grab 2 of them for $5. So when you're on the go, headed to practice, or need a snack, grab a Bo's Bird Dog. Hurry in before they're gone, available for a limited time. It's bow time.
There's no time like bow time, but sometimes it's go time. No time to stop, but the perfect time for a Bojangles Bird Dog. A seasoned to perfection Bojangles Chicken Supremes, dill pickles, and Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, all tucked inside a toasted bun. Great on the go. Try 2 bird dogs for just $5 or 2 bird dog combo for just $8.25. Available for limited time only. When you're hungry for flavor and value, it's bow time.
By the way, thanks to everybody who is tuned in today and yesterday, this week, keeping up with all the NHL and the free agent frenzy regarding the Carolina Hurricanes here on 99.9 The Fan. Again, the free agent frenzy this week here on The Fan, presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Lillington. So big shout out to them for sponsoring this, but also big shout out to you all for all tuning in. I really have been a fan of what everyone has been doing in terms of interacting in the comment sections on the videos that we post, as well as our YouTube live chat, people that have called in on Monday Sound Off, or people just sending us direct messages on social media and all that. We love the interaction and you all being part of this community as well. And again, a big place that you can be part of that is follow 99.9 The Fan on all social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, you name it, it's all out there. But also give us a follow on YouTube as well. That's where, again, we can see a lot of the interaction that you guys have and can leave comments instantly with us. And then, there's so many people right now in our comment section talking about Nikolai Ehlers and do we want Ehlers and, what are the other things that the Carolina Hurricanes need to do? And there's so much going on right now. So go on YouTube, search 99.9 The Fan. Again, just type in 99.9 The Fan. You'll see our logo and everything pop up. Subscribe.
Hit subscribe.
Subscribe while you're there. Yeah, exactly. It's free. We love reading the comment section. We have, at least once a week, if not multiple times a week, a segment called Feedback Frenzy where we look at your comments, we read them on the show, and we respond to them.
Oh, yeah.
We 100% will look at the comment section during the show and react sometimes to that as well. We're almost at 18,000 subscribers as a whole.
We can get to 20, though. Maybe by the end of the summer we can try to push for 20,000.
If we get to 20, that's great. I believe, Max, that there is might potentially be something that's given out to somebody if we reach 20,000.
Oh, really?
There might be something in the works. But, again, we love and appreciate that The entire show you can stream right there. The Drive with Tim Donnelly. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim this afternoon. I probably should have said that. Max Gorham producing the show today. But you can watch the show in its entirety in case you missed something and you want to go back and listen to it, or if you're busy at work and you can't catch it on a drive and 4 o'clock is when you can pull it up on YouTube. Just scrub back and listen through and catch up that way and listen to the show. Or again, just catch the best of the Drive podcast wherever you get your podcast. And it's more than just the Drive. It's the Adam Gold Show. It's also Panthers Playbook. There's the Canes Corner podcast with Adam Gold as well. There's a lot of different stuff that we put out there for people to enjoy and just to interact with. Or if you just get pissed off, feel free to say something as well.
Also, and I just want to throw it out there right now, Lai. I hope wherever you're watching from, you're listening safely. We've got some severe thunderstorms in the area, so everybody just make sure we're being safe while we're go down in the basement, get away from the windows and hop in the live chat and interact with us on YouTube.
Exactly. Take us with you on your phones. Make sure it's all charged up. So speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, again, as the free agent frenzy continues, presented by John Heiser, Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Lillington. One of the big things that actually happened yesterday for the Carolina Hurricanes wasn't a free agent signing. It was actually the addition of Keandre Miller, the defenseman from the New York Rangers, going to the Carolina Hurricanes. And something that we have to keep in mind when it comes to trades is that we're so quick, whether it's fans or even us in media, people that cover the team or whatever, there's always well, that's too much, or this team won this trade, or whatever it might be. And I think we lose sight that sometimes when it comes to trades is that there's two sides to the coin and that multiple things can be true. And I think there are three things that stuck out to me regarding the Keandre Miller trade. One, the compensation for New York can be good compensation for them, but also it can be a good player for Carolina. Like, both teams can quote-unquote win, because it all depends on what teams want. Carolina, the Hurricanes, they weren't going to get a rental for this upcoming season to be a top 4 defenseman. There is a need for a top 4 defenseman on this team. And going into this season, they weren't, and they probably weren't going to re-sign Brent Burns. They probably weren't going to re-sign Dmitry Orlov. Those guys still sitting out there as free agents. But Carolina wasn't going to just go get a rental for one season for a top 4 defenseman. The cost would be too high, and that actually would be a waste of assets. So instead, they had to target a player that, A, fits the skill set required to play in their system, B, was available at a cost that where they didn't have to give up current players in order to make the move, and C, have to go find a player that was willing to sign a long-term deal with the team. It's pretty specific. Now, the Rangers didn't have Keandre Miller as part of their long-term plans, and guess what? That's okay. We have seen defensemen get moved at different times in their career. Like, for example, we just saw about a week or so ago, Noah Dobson from the New York Islanders get traded to the Montreal Canadiens for a couple of first-round picks 16 and 17 in the first round of just this past draft, as well as a player going back from Montreal as well. So we've seen this before. Now, Carolina didn't give up quite as much as that in terms of draft compensation, and they also didn't sign Keandre Miller to as high as a value contract. Noah Dobson getting $9.5 million a year. Keandre Miller, $7.5 million a year. Both 25-year-old players. Now, the Rangers, again, got a couple of high draft picks in 2026. They got a first-round pick and a second-round pick. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes do have first-round protection on that first-round pick. So the Canes have 2 first-round picks in 2026. The Rangers will get the higher of those 2 picks unless that higher of the 2 picks is a top 10 pick. It's top 10 protected, which in that case, the Rangers would get the lower of the 2 picks. Now, if they're both top 10, I think they're both protected, then it becomes the 2027 pick. But nonetheless, it's a good young player in Scott Morrow going along with those 2 picks to the New York Rangers, but a player that still needs to develop into becoming an everyday NHL player. So both teams got what they wanted. Canes got a top 4 guy that could play right now. New York Rangers got some draft picks and a good young player that is still developing that can potentially be part of their team moving forward. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when it comes to this trade, the Carolina Hurricanes had the resources to make this move. What were the Canes lauded for going into the offseason? And not just by me, not just by Tim Donnelly, not by fans, but not people that cover the team. A lot of people, the Canes were lauded for the fact that they had the resources available to make these kinds of moves. They came into the offseason with nearly $27 million in cap space. They had 5 first-round picks over the next 3 years and a deep prospect pool. Well, all those assets and all that capital, however you want to describe it, isn't any good if you don't use some of it. And guess what? That's exactly what the Canes did. What's the point of having all that capital if you just let it sit there? Now, when the Canes traded Mikko Rantanen to the Dallas Stars, they got 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and Logan Stankoven in return. Now, they had quickly identified Stankoven as being part of their core, signed him to a long-term deal. So you had the extra first-round pick in 2026, which is what was used to help get you Keandre Miller. And, yes, you did give away a good prospect in Scott Morrow, but it's not like the Canes gave away a can't-miss player. We saw Morrow struggle a little bit in the playoffs. Again, super young, developing player. But he's not a can't-miss. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a good player. But he's not the Alexander Nikishin type prospect. And the third thing is that I think is true from this Keandre Miller trade yesterday is that the contract that they signed Keandre Miller to, 8 years, $7.5 million a year, and the compensation that went to New York doesn't hold Eric Tulski and this organization back from doing any future moves. The $7.5 million a year doesn't hold the Canes back from doing anything that they want to do. Eric Tulski told us that. The interview's up on YouTube. They're not strapped for anything. Anything that they want to go do, they can afford to make. Anything they want to do this offseason, in the future, whether it's this year or even next year, they can do all those things. And let's be honest with ourselves. Yeah, a first-round pick and a second-round pick, those are high. Those 2026 picks aren't going to help you win a cup this year. If you kept those picks, they're not going to help you this year. They're not going to help you next year. They weren't going to help you in 27 or 28. At the earliest those picks would even see the ice in the NHL, 2029, 2030, what good does that do you now? You're trying to win a cup right now. And Scott Morrow wasn't going to be part of your team this year as a regular unless there was an injury. The Canes still have plenty of picks over the next few years at their disposal to draft players, and we all know how much the Carolina Hurricanes are willing to trade back and acquire more picks. The Canes still have a very good prospect pool, which they can still tap into to bring up into their lineup in the near future or use as potential trade capital if they want to go acquire another player, whether it's this season or next. And looking at the Canes roster right now, only Mark Jankowski and Frederik Andersen, and I know they just signed Mike Riley as a defenseman, but those guys are the only ones that are set to hit the open market a year from now. Jackson Blake and Alexander Nikishin will be restricted free agents, so the Canes control their rights. Everyone else on their roster, outside of those guys I just mentioned, they're under contract. And Carolina still has $19 million in cap space. And they don't have to spend any of that right now if they don't want to. Now there's still the potential for Nikolai Ehlers. They could, again, go acquire a player and not really have to think about it. The $7.5 million for Keandre Miller in a couple of years when the salary cap jumps from what it is right now to 2 years from now when it's going to be $113 million, way up from the $95.5 million right now, that's only going to be 6.6% of your salary cap. It doesn't hold them back from doing anything. Canes got what they want. New York Rangers got what they want. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. It's been the Free Agent Frenzy. The Free Agent Frenzy continues tomorrow here on 99.9 The Fan, so stay locked in. Until next time, we bid you adieu. Goodbye and good night.
Move your sports day forward.
In the often forgettable churn of sports news, it's a good thing Will Wade is stoking the rivalry fire between State and Carolina. In this fresh age of player transfers and payments, the only way to provide spark these days has to be through the coaches. The one-and-done kids can't hint at rivalry. Wade's delivering in an area for me way ahead of schedule.
Get set up Join next